Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, The Avenger of the Uzumaki clan. Chapter 41. It's about why we must insist on continuing the mission. He still doesn't believe that Kakashi is still the so-called passionate and righteous person. It should even be said that such words are naturally incompatible with ninjas. Isn't it ridiculous to talk about passion and justice in a profession that exists for fighting? In the original work, when Nagato invaded Konoha and subdued Naruto, the conversation he had with Naruto completely revealed the nature of the ninja village and ninjas in this world. The three ninja world wars are real. The sufferings suffered by many small countries are not false. Kakashi, a ninja with blood on his hands, is definitely not a charitable person. There must be a profound reason for continuing to carry out the mission of the Land of Waves. Although this does not seem to be a very important issue, if possible, Menma still hopes to figure it out, otherwise it will be a bit uncomfortable to hold it in his heart. But now the opportunity has been taken away by the second pillar, so he can only wait for a while. Anyway, the night is long and there is plenty of time. Kakashi and Sasuke left quickly and came back quickly. On the surface, Sasuke still looked calm. It is likely that Kakashi told Sasuke the truth of the past. After all, it is not something that needs to be concealed. Hey, Menma, do you have any questions for me? It was also when he saw the two people coming back. Before Menma was about to say something, Kakashi, with his hands in his pockets, looked at Menma with a smile and spoke in advance. Ah, yes, Mr. Kakashi, if you don't mind explaining it to me. After a moment of surprise, Menma immediately replied. Well, come on. Kakashi nodded, and then took the lead to walk outside again, and Menma also stood up and followed. Naruto and Sakura, who stayed on the spot, looked at the backs of Kakashi and Menma, who left with a touch of surprise. Menma also has questions for Kakashi. Hey, Sasuke, what questions did you ask Kakashi? Naruto looked at Sasuke with a hint of curiosity. Nothing. Sasuke looked at Naruto indifferently, and after saying these three words, he walked to the windowsill and sat down, unwilling to say anything more. Naruto seemed to realize that this might involve personal issues, so he didn't ask any more questions, but just muttered in his heart, what a cold guy. Not to mention the three people who stayed in the living room. Kakashi and Menma, who stepped out of the house, also came to the edge of the coast on the left side of the house. If I'm not mistaken, you want to ask me why I continue to carry out this mission, right? Menma. Kakashi stopped and turned to look at Menma, as if asking, but with a firm tone. Yes, Mr. Kakashi, I won't go into details about the reasons. The attack of the hostile Jonin from the Hidden Mist village can explain the problem. It's understandable if Naruto is a little more passionate, but Mr. Kakashi, you have no reason to do this, right? Menma looked directly at Kakashi, not hiding his doubtful attitude at all. I understood your attitude before. In fact, the reason is very simple. Menma, the Land of Waves is too close to our Konoha, and the first attacker was still a mist ninja. I said this, with your intelligence, you should understand what I mean, right? Strategic location, right? Menma was stunned at first, then seemed to react, and replied thoughtfully. It is said to be a country, but the area of the Land of Waves is really too small, and the population of the entire country may not be tens of thousands, but the geographical location is too important. For the Hidden Mist Village and the Hidden Mist Village, this is an extremely important strategic location. Especially after the destruction of the Whirlpool Country and the Whirlpool Village, the Wave Country became the most important and most contested bridgehead for the Mist Ninja to invade the Fire Country. Once the Mist Ninja's power can reach deep into the country, or even control the Wave Country, the Mist Ninja can use this as a seesaw, and it will be easy to invade the Fire Country. This must be something that Konohagakure does not want to see. As a ninja village located in the center of the ninja world, the defense pressure it needs to bear is already very high, and now it does not want to continue to increase the pressure on national defense. Before, Menma's thinking was restricted, and he did not think of this side. Now Kakashi only said this, and Menma can react. Well, that's what I mean, so it is necessary to come here to confirm, but I didn't expect it to be a traitor like Zabuza. This is indeed a little unexpected, and this is also my mistake. Kakashi shook his head gently and said, this is indeed the reason, but Kakashi is also very confident in himself. He really thinks that with him, Everything is under control, and it is good to give Menma, Naruto, and Sasuke more training. However, the subsequent process is indeed beyond Kakashi's expectations. Although the previous battle results were good, if Kakashi knew from the beginning that the enemy would be a person of Zabuza's level, he would really think twice before acting. After all, having the ability to back up and let the team members train is different from falling into danger that is beyond their control. Rebel Ninja, does that mean you are no longer related to the Hidden Mist Village? Menma continued to ask. Well, at present, it can be said so, but it is not completely certain, so we'd better stay here for a while, and just in time to escort Dasna-san to finish building the bridge. Then why don't we go directly to the person in question, Kakashi-sensei? Menma looked at Kakashi with a sharp gaze. The person in question. Kakashi was slightly stunned and asked subconsciously. Yes, it's the person in question, the big businessman who attempted to control the land of waves, Gato. From him, we can definitely get the most comprehensive and detailed information, right? Menma smiled slightly and said, well, this is indeed a good choice. After all, he is just a businessman. Kakashi naturally would not think of Gato subconsciously before, but with Menma's light touch, Kakashi can easily associate Gato with the role he played in this incident. Who knows if he really has very valuable information. You know, a businessman like Gato, without a certain official background, it is definitely difficult to get by. This is a very common operation in the world where Menma lived in his previous life, that is, the combination of capital and power. In this world, Menma does not think there will be exceptions. Then how do you think we should find this Gato? Kakashi looked at Menma with interest and said, this is obviously a plan in mind, and he wants to test Menma. As long as Mr. Gato's goal remains unchanged, it is still very easy to find him, and I believe that there must be a companion of Mr. Gato in this town. Menma said in a very affirmative tone. Haha, then the investigation work is left to you, Menma, there should be no problem, right? Kakashi said with a slight smile. Well, there is no problem at all, Mr. Kakashi, he is just an ordinary person, just wait for my good news. Menma said confidently with his head raised. Originally, Menma had planned to find a suitable opportunity to have an offline netizen interview meeting with that big businessman after coming to the country of waves. Now he can bring it up openly. Just save some unnecessary trouble. On the way back with Kakashi, Menma was also mentally thinking about where he should start tomorrow. Gato can control the kingdom of waves. Firstly, his power must be strong enough, at least stronger than the Kingdom of Waves, so that the people of the Kingdom of Waves dare not speak out. Secondly, there must be corresponding traitors within the Kingdom of Waves. Today, many times the best way to disrupt a group's strength is to attack it from within. Therefore, Menma can completely start the investigation from this point. Anyway, the country of waves is not big, unless that Gato will decisively give up his plan, but no matter how he looks at it, this person is not that smart. He dared to threaten Zabuza face to face, and he even felt that he could fight against ninjas by leading a group of so-called underworld. This is absolutely mindless. Oh, you're back, brother Kakashi, Menma. A few steps away, Naruto, who was a little bored, was waiting in the house. When he saw the two returning figures, his eyes lit up. Subconsciously, he wanted to ask something, but as if he thought of something, he held it back. That kind of expression that seemed to be a little unhappy. When Kakashi saw it, he shook his head in a funny way. Starting tomorrow, the four of you will be divided into two groups. Menma will investigate the information about the enemy's employer in this mission, Gato. Of the three of you, two will protect Dazuna-san from building the bridge, and the other will follow up to assist Menma and take turns. The specific order is decided by the four of you. Kakashi crossed his arms on his chest and looked at Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Oh, Gato, are you going to take the initiative? Naruto's face suddenly showed a look of excitement, and he said eagerly. Rather than passively respond to the challenge, Naruto hopes that his side will take the initiative. And again, Naruto is not stupid. He will also consider that it is impossible for his group to stay in the country of waves for a long time. If the big bad guy named Gato wants to wait until they leave the country of waves to attack Mr. Dazna and other people in the country of waves, they will be beyond their reach. But if the evildoers can be at the source, Gato is dealt with directly. Naruto felt that the Kingdom of Waves would definitely usher in a new life. Well, we can't always be the passive party. Kakashi chuckled and nodded. Oh, I understand, brother Kakashi. Naruto nodded heavily, clenched his hands into fists, and replied with great momentum. Yes, Kakashi-sensei. Sakura on the side also agreed. Sasuke nodded gently, still looking calm. He was just an ordinary person anyway, and it was impossible for Sasuke to care at all. Ah, Kakashi-san, are you going to deal with Kado? Thank you very much for that. However, Kado has many subordinates, so please be careful. Tatsuna, who had just gone to help Kakashi, Menma and others prepare bedding with his daughter, returned to the living room and heard the conversation between Kakashi, Menma, and Naruto. There was also a look of surprise on his face. Originally, he had been hesitant to make a similar request before, but firstly, he was already protecting himself beyond the limit, and secondly, Kaduo was a very rich and sinister businessman, and he didn't have many people who could give orders. Therefore, Dasna just refrained from making a similar request. Now Kakashi and the others actually offered to search for Kado's location. While Dazuna was overjoyed, he also felt a little worried. After all, Dazuna's understanding of ninjas was not deep enough and he only stayed on the surface. I really think that ordinary people can still pose a threat to ninjas as long as they are in large numbers. This idea cannot be said to be completely wrong, but it also depends on who the target is, and the limitations are still very strong. Well, don't worry, Dazna-san, we will definitely solve it smoothly at Kado. Kakashi smiled slightly and didn't explain much. There's no way you can be Kado's opponent. It's a ridiculous stupid thing to solve it successfully. Heroes don't exist at all. You are just doing useless work. It was when Kakashi's words fell. Suddenly, in the corridor location. Suddenly a short figure appeared. Those loud and angry words showed a very angry look in the eyes of Kakashi, Menma, Naruto, Sasuke and others. This was completely unexpected. Everyone was stunned subconsciously. When Dazna saw this short figure, his expression suddenly changed and he scolded sternly. What are you talking about, Inari? It's very rude of you to do this, do you know? Apologize to all the ninjas right away. This short figure was none other than Tazuna's grandson, Inari, who was only 5 or 6 years old. Jinba, who had just prepared the bedding in another room, also heard his son scream and hurriedly ran over and hugged his son. With a deep apology, he bowed to Kakashi, Menma and others and said, I'm very sorry, all ninjas, Inari is still young and completely ignorant. Please forgive me, Inari, why don't you apologize quickly? The last sentence was also turned to look at the son in his arms, and his tone became more severe than ever. I'm not wrong, why should I apologize? They don't know the horror of Kado at all, they are just showing off, Dad. Dad just died like that. They are just bragging, this world, there is no hero at all. Because of his young age and ignorance, he seemed more stubborn. Even his mother and grandfather could not change Inari's mind, and it was because he remembered his dead father. Inari's eyes were filled with tears, and the tears that slid down his cheeks made Sakura and Naruto, who were originally a little angry, slightly stunned. Sasuke's brows also frowned. Just when Kakashi was about to say something to ease the situation. What an ignorant and stupid guy, a kid needs to know his own limits. Want to cry? Then go to the corner and cry alone. You are here, which makes me feel disgusted, you know. Menma turned around and looked at Inari with a look of extreme disgust, and said those words coldly. That was a hint of strong murderous aura. It made Inari feel as if he felt a bone-chilling chill. His pupils widened subconsciously, and his whole body trembled slightly uncontrollably. His neck seemed to be suddenly pinched, and the sobbing stopped abruptly. A touch of fear emerged in his heart. After seeing Menma's cold attitude, Tatsuna couldn't help but feel nervous, and quickly stepped sideways to stand between his grandson and Menma, just as he was about to say something. Menma. Kakashi also noticed Menma's somewhat abnormal mood changes. He frowned and shouted in a deep voice. It was as if he was awakened by Kakashi's words. Sorry, I'm rude, I just thought of something unpleasant. After Menma took a deep breath, he calmed down his emotions and restrained his murderous aura. But at this moment, Inari no longer had the courage to yell before. His whole body was shaking uncontrollably, as if he had lost all his strength. He collapsed in his mother's arms, hugging him tightly. Mother, her little head was buried deep in it, and she didn't even dare to look at Menma again. Jinbo also hugged his son tightly, and glanced at Menma with a hint of fear. At first, Jinbo thought that these little ninjas were still children, but now Jinbo didn't think so. A ninja is a ninja after all. Dazuna always felt like he was about to collapse. At that moment, all joking aside, Tatsuna was really afraid that Menma would take action against his grandson. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke in the back all looked at Menma with varying degrees of strangeness. After all, this sudden outburst was very inconsistent with Menma's previous personality, feel. Menma himself seemed to realize this. How stupid. After muttering something like this in a low voice, he didn't know whether it was to Ina or to himself. He put his head in his hands and walked towards the corridor outside the living room. Watching Menma leave, Naruto wanted to say something, but in the end he chose to give up. Honestly, at that moment, Naruto has the urge to scold Inari. Although Naruto in this life does not have the same experience as in the original book, his personality cannot accept the cry of a timid person. You must know that there are people in their team. The three of them were all young, and even became orphans earlier. Even though Naruto looked positive and optimistic every day. But privately, Naruto also longed for his parents' care. But he never shows it outside. This is Naruto's own insistence. In there it is very small. But who hasn't come from childhood? Naruto felt that he could somewhat understand Menma's mood at the moment. The second pillar in the farthest position also looked deeply at the departing figure with a numb face, and a different kind of luster faintly showed in his pupils. You and I are the same. Single quote. Sakura was the only one who couldn't understand Menma, and even felt that Menma was a little too much. In her opinion, Inari was just a child after all, and a little guy who had lost his father. Some inappropriate remarks should be tolerated. How could you treat Inari like that? Haruno Sakura felt that Menma was the one who made the mistake, and she disliked Menma even more. Of course, at this moment, Haruno Sakura completely ignored that in this team, she was the only one with both parents. Or maybe she had never thought about this aspect and always focused on herself. Kakashi holds a similar view to Naruto. He felt that it was because of Menma's childhood experiences that left such a deep imprint, and that he was so stimulated by Inari that he exploded. And their guess cannot be said to be wrong. It can only be said that it is not comprehensive enough. It was naturally impossible for Menma, who had already left, to know what Kakashi and Naruto were thinking. After arriving at the high point of the sea cliff, he was gently blown by the cold sea breeze and his brain calmed down again. There was also a look of self-deprecation on Ma's face. I'm still not mature enough. I'm just a strange kid. Why should I compete with him? Really, what on earth am I doing? When did I become so stupid? Single quote. Menma slapped his cheek with both hands a little harder. Snapped. He murmured in a low voice, very annoyed. He is a kid who is destined to have no interaction with him, and is not even an ordinary supporting character in this world. Why should he care? Why bother taking it seriously? Just because of my experience in this life. Because of a sense of déjà vu from a certain event in a previous life. Indeed, Menma did not deny that at that moment, his heart was full of the urge to rush up and beat Inari, just like the attitude shown when Naruto insisted on continuing to perform the mission. This all made Menma feel very annoyed. But now think about it, does this make sense? No, this is just a disgusting venting of personal emotions. It has no meaning to myself or the current reality. Say 1,000 words and 10,000 things. This is all a manifestation of Menma's own immaturity and a change in his personality. Including the inexplicable concern for Naruto before, and even getting angry because of Naruto's attitude and character. So what if he is his younger brother? Do you have any experience living together? No. Is there any real brotherhood? Nor, just because of blood relationship. Is it because Naruto has a very similar personality to his brother from his previous life? Okay, maybe these are reasons, but do I have the qualifications and room to consider these now? There must be a limit to fooling around. Pretentiousness must be stopped immediately. Stupidity is not allowed. What is your goal? What is your plan? Can't you see yourself clearly? Can't you make up your mind? If that's the case, then you might as well die. Humans are indeed creatures with 7 emotions and 6 desires, and they are also creatures that are prone to making mistakes, but after making mistakes, they must learn to introspect and correct themselves. Menma himself felt disgusted when he thought of his previous hypocrisy and affectation. He had clearly said that he would be a thorough egoist. In the end, he still cares about this. Cares about that. Is there something wrong with his brain? Is he a split personality? In this mission, Menma really examined his heart. What exactly does he want? That is to live as freely and unrestrainedly as possible, and then do things that make his mind clear. In this life, he wants to live transparently. Menma looked at the calm and deep sea level, and a resolute and sharp look appeared in his pupils. No one can stop me, no matter who wants to stop me, I will not hesitate any more. Single quote. At this moment, in this country of waves, Menma made his own decision. After blowing the cold wind on the cliff for a while and calming himself down completely, Menma returned to the house. Some things seemed to have never happened. Menma also returned to his previous calm appearance. Menma's state of mind can be said to have undergone a real transformation. Under the seemingly calm and even a little gentle attitude, there is a more unfamiliar alienation. But it is different from the immature period in the past. Now Menma can perfectly put on a hypocritical mask that others are willing to see. People need setbacks and need to grow. No one is born mature and rational. Now Menma has taken the most critical step, including Kakashi. He simply couldn't see through Menma's false mask. On the contrary, in this mission, Kakashi made an extremely serious misjudgment of Menma. Ma's sharp scolding, and that night, Menma's emotional venting to Inari, all made Kakashi truly feel that Menma was indeed, as Iruka said, a person who is cold on the outside and hot on the inside, and a person who truly cares about his companions. Man of. This cannot be said to be wrong. It can only be said to be one-sided. It's even more untimely. After all, the past Menma still carried the temperament and habits of his previous life. He said that he had completely integrated into this world, but he still seemed a little out of place. But he is different now. Companion, of course you have to care, but you must care about like-minded companions. People who choose to take a different path, or even the opposite route, will they be companions? The answer is obviously no. Different road non-phase plan. During this night, Menma truly understood the true meaning of this sentence, and therefore, he strengthened his goals and will. However, this is the true reality that Kakashi can never see through, at least for now. A peaceful night. The next morning came. The child named Inari, after being scolded coldly by Menma, never appeared in Menma's sight again. Perhaps he was afraid, or maybe Tatsuna and Tsunami were worried about Menma. Ashin takes action against Inari, asking Inari to avoid Menma. But no matter what the reason is, Menma didn't even care. Now he just wants to find Gato as soon as possible. That big businessman has the scarce funds he needs. Startup capital is also indispensable in your future plans. So, at first light, just after breakfast, the 7th class took action. Sakura and Sasuke are responsible for today's escort mission of Tazuna. Menma took Naruto out with him. The reason why he chose Naruto as his first choice was also very simple. Naruto also knew the shadow clone technique. In terms of searching for information, the shadow clone had a unique effect. Menma was determined to collect as much useful information as possible within today. As long as Gato's specific location could be determined, Menma would come directly to them as long as it was not very far away from them. Menma believed that Mr. Gato's wallet would not let him down. But this time, the goddess of fate obviously took care of Menma. The search work only started for a short period of time, and there was progress. Interesting. Does Mr. Gato actually plan to take action personally like in the original work? And it's today. Haha, it seems he is really confident. In a deserted corner of the route on the southeast side of this town, Menma stood on the spot, holding a kunai directly on the body of a timid middle-aged man. The information was obviously obtained from this middle-aged man. The reason why Menma caught this middle-aged man so quickly was because he came to the door himself. Not long after Menma and Naruto separated, he discovered the ghost of this middle-aged man, following him furtively. You can guess with your toes that this guy must be a ghost. Sure enough, after he was caught, he directly threatened Kunai, and this guy told everything, including his identity, how he was bribed by Gato, and how he betrayed his fellow villagers. What a bit of backbone. None. Fortunately, Menma had prepared many methods and was just waiting to experiment on this guy. Even if it's done, he's really a tough guy. If he doesn't say anything, he'll take it back and let Kakashi torture him using genjutsu. Unexpectedly, none of these methods were used. Of course, this kind of guy who is not a hard-nosed person cannot know too much information. The only useful information he knows is that Gato will personally lead people to deal with their group of Konoha ninjas, but isn't that enough? Well, Ninja-sama, you have told me everything I know. Can I go? The middle-aged man looked at Menma with a hint of humility and asked tremblingly. Oh, of course that's no problem. I'll take you on your way in person. Menma glanced at the middle-aged man indifferently, and the words he spoke had no warmth at all. Ah, then there's no need to trouble my lord, What? Send me on my way. This. When the middle-aged man heard Menma's words, he was happy at first, and then seemed to realize something. He looked up at Menma with a hint of horror. Aha! Not waiting for any reaction, Menma turned his right hand. A little bit of cold light bloomed. PFF'd. Well. A lot of blood splattered out. The middle-aged man's pupils suddenly shrank and he subconsciously held his neck. Ho, want to say something, but he looked completely powerless. It fell limply to the ground, and in less than a few seconds, it was completely lifeless, with only those wide eyes, as if questioning Menma. Menma looked at the middle-aged man coldly and turned away. A native of Wave Country could easily betray his country and his fellow countrymen. Killing such a person, not to mention the current Menma, even the previous Menma, would not have any psychological burden. And if he didn't kill this guy, would he keep him to report back? Such a person has no credibility. He got the information he wanted. Menma didn't stop at all. He immediately went to meet Naruto. What did you say? There is information. So fast. It was less than half an hour after the two separated, and Menma had gained something. Naruto was a little bit unbelievable at the first time. He looked at Menma with wide eyes. Is this the strength of the first in the ninja school? Intelligence investigation is so efficient. Well, luck is not bad. That Mr. Gato is now planning to come to our door. We don't need to spend more effort. We just need to do a good job of welcoming him. Menma smiled faintly and replied softly. Haha, there's another fight. This time I must get ahead of you. Naruto's eyes lit up and he said eagerly. Menma still had a faint smile on his face and nodded gently. Then the two of them leapt and quickly headed for the location of the bridge. From the information just learned, this Mr. Gato has already come with a large army. This time, he is full of confidence and plans to solve the problem once and for all, and deal with all of them, the group of ninjas, and the last group of resistance personnel from the Kingdom of Waves led by Dazna, in order to achieve the intention of completely controlling the Kingdom of Waves. The seaside location facing the Land of Fire. Above the strait that Menma and others passed through yesterday, there is an unfinished bridge. This bridge is what Tazuna has been thinking about. He is personally responsible for building it, hoping to bring courage and hope to the people of the Land of Waves. Bridge. After more than a year, the current progress has reached the final part. Just complete this last part of the project. This will successfully connect the Kingdom of Waves and the Kingdom of Fire. This is not allowed by Gato, but this big businessman's brain is indeed not that good, at least in Menma's opinion. There are many ways to destroy the bridge, and there is a chance to kill Dazuna. There are also many. But this one had to choose the most complicated and difficult one to achieve. Fortunately, he could still become a big businessman. It can only be said that he had really good luck before this. Otherwise, with his brain, if his luck was even worse, he would have been eaten up by others, and not even the scum would be left. But this is just convenient. Menma, if Gato is really a smart person, it will be a troublesome thing. When Menma led Naruto to the entrance of the bridge, he saw Sasuke and Sakura standing guard on both sides from a distance, while Kakashi was sitting leaning against a big tree. On the branches of the tree, I looked at the treasure books I carried with me leisurely. When he noticed Menma and Naruto's figures, Kakashi's eyes also flashed with surprise. He closed the book lightly, jumped up, came to the two of them, took the first step and asked, Menma, Naruto, you are back so soon, have you discovered anything? Yes, Kakashi-sensei, that's it. Menma, who came closer, nodded and reported the information he had learned to Kakashi in the simplest words. After hearing this, Kakashi's eyes flashed slightly, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Originally, Kakashi thought that the situation this time was related to the Kingdom of Water and Kurigakure village. Even if Zabuza was a rebellious nin of Kurigakure village, who could say for sure what happened in the ninja world? Every ninja village has its own secrets. As a ninja, Kakashi has been in the ninja world for a full 20 years, so he knows this very clearly. Therefore, Kakashi will not make a decision lightly before everything is truly determined, but now it seems that this mission does not seem to be too deeply involved. It is such a businessman named Gato who is obsessed with profit. Just the result. Is this 100% certain? Menma. Kakashi looked at Menma with a slightly serious expression and asked. 9 times out of 10, Mr. Kakashi, it is very simple to verify. If the information is not wrong, it will take at most 1 or 2 hours for us to see Mr. Gato arrive in person. If by that time. Menma nodded slightly, and just opened his mouth to answer a few words. Woo 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 woo. On the sea surface due south, the sound of a larger ship sailing suddenly came. It may not be so easy for ordinary people to hear. But as ninjas, Kakashi, Menma and others have 5 senses that are far more sensitive than ordinary people. Ninjas can easily detect subtle changes. This subconsciously reversed the past sight. Look, isn't this what's coming? Kakashi-sensei. Menma said with a smile. Especially when Menma's perception range did not detect any chakra fluctuations, the smile in Menma's pupils became more intense. There really are such stupid guys. It came on time. Naruto at the side also said with a hint of surprise. Well, let's go take a look. Kakashi also shook his head in amusement. Soon after, even as they led Menma and Naruto towards the direction of the ship, Sasuke and Sakura, who were far away in the center of the bridge, also noticed Kakashi, Menma, the actions of the 3 Narutos. Where are Kakashi-sensei and the others going? Have they determined Kato's location? Or is it that ship? Sakura came to the guardrail on the left side of the bridge, placed her hands on the guardrail, looked at the 3 people walking away, and spoke with a hint of curiosity. Sasuke also glanced at it subconsciously, but did not pay too much attention to it. He had already said yesterday that Gato was just an ordinary person. No matter how rich he was, Urzuki would not have any interest in Gato. Now he is only interested in getting stronger. Hey, how can Kakashi-sensei and the others be able to walk on water? What kind of ability is this? However, in the next second, Sasuke just turned back. He was attracted back by Sakura's exclamation. And that sight changed again. This time, Urzuki was a little bit less calm. After all, at this time, Sasuke and Sakura had not yet been exposed to the practice of climbing trees and treading water. When they saw that Kakashi, Menma, and Naruto could speed directly on the water like a flat bottom, Sakura I won't mention it anymore. Sasuke's eyes always showed a special light at that moment. Looking at the 3 people who were completely gone, Sasuke didn't say much. He had already made up his mind to ask Kakashi clearly when he came back. Not to mention the 2 people who stayed on the spot. Kakashi, Menma, and Naruto, who were speeding out on the other side, were getting closer and closer to the ship that was also approaching at high speed. Menma was not surprised at all that Naruto could walk on the water at high speed. The identity of a person in this life is very different from that in the original work. There are some things that no one teaches in the original work, but it does not mean that no one teaches them in this life. As for Kakashi knowing that he can also walk on water, it is normal. Would Sarutobi Hiruzen not know what Menma was doing in the past 12 years? Kakashi, as the 7th team leader selected by Hiruzen Sarutobi, had learned this information in advance. Only Naruto looked a little bit shocked. It turns out that you have also completed the training of climbing trees and treading water, Menma. I thought I was the only one who mastered it in advance. Naruto said with a slightly discouraged tone. Originally, he thought that he could finally take the lead in a certain aspect, but he didn't expect that others had already completed the corresponding training. Well, these are also some tips from life in the past. Menma replied with a faint smile. In life, That is. Okay, stop gossiping, we've reached the target location. When Naruto still wanted to ask something with a hint of curiosity. In the near position, it was already the ship that appeared clearly in the eyes of the three people. Kakashi also immediately interrupted Naruto. Remember, the first goal is to ensure that Gato is captured 100%, do you understand? Yes, even if it is 99% certain that Gato has no relationship with the Land of Water and the Hidden Mist Village, ninjas still need to be cautious when performing missions. Important events that may involve the Hidden Mist Village, one of the 5 major countries, require repeated investigations to achieve 100% confirmation. These 3 people came to the near point on the left side of the ship. Some crew members on the deck of the ship also noticed Kakashi and the other 2 who had no intention of hiding their bodies. Enemy attack, enemy attack. When Kakashi, Naruto, and Menma each leapt up and quickly jumped to the bow deck, the leading crew member shouted with a look of horror. What? An enemy is attacking. Who is the guy who is so brave? Hee, my sword has been thirsty for a long time. I want to see which guy is looking for death. Brothers, go and kill the guys. In an instant, the whole ship suddenly erupted in a series of noisy shouts. Then, a series of extremely rough figures swarmed from every corner of the ship, each with a ferocious face. Some were holding a machete, while others were holding a long sword. They looked like gangsters who were not easy to mess with. However, for ordinary people, these gangsters were indeed very intimidating. But in front of the ninja, these people were a joke. If it weren't for the need to capture Gato alive, Kakashi would have used a more lethal water escape technique to kill all these people. Gato also appeared with these stupid guys with no IQ at all, biting a cigar in his mouth, thinking that he had the situation under control. With a touch of sarcasm, he looked at Kakashi, Menma, and Naruto who appeared at the bow and said, "Wow, who did I think it was?" It turned out to be the ninja of Konoha. Zabuza is indeed a waste. He died without killing even one person. However, I knew that this guy was unreliable. Fortunately, I have the last trump card. See if these people of mine, Konoha ninjas, you know what's good for you, and get out of here quickly. If I'm in a good mood, I can give you Konoha a little face and save your lives, but if you don't understand, today, I will throw you all down to feed the fish. A real stupid person. He is the kind of hopeless person. I don't know how this guy can live to this day and become a well-known big businessman. With this IQ, shouldn't he have become fertilizer for other real ruthless characters? Although Menma had long known that Gato was a guy with an IQ of 0 or even negative, he still felt incredible when he saw Gato's arrogant attitude in front of ninjas. There are really people who can be so stupid. Single quote. Menma couldn't help but shook his head and thought in his heart. Teacher Kakashi, this is just the barking of a group of morons. Menma turned his head and glanced at Kakashi. Well, leave it to you two, no need to hold back. For these people, Kakashi couldn't have the slightest sympathy. He came together just to ensure that there would be no danger. Now it seems that there is really no problem at all. He leaned against the mast at the bow, waved to Menma and Naruto, took out his treasure secretary, and read it with relish. Well, leave it to us. Menma and Naruto also responded synchronously. Boom, boom. The 2 men's chakra exploded under their feet, and they quickly approached Gato's position. HMPH, stubborn guys, kill them all, I will double the fees I promised you before. Gato snorted coldly, with an expression of being completely irritated, and shouted to the wandering hooligans around. Hey, then leave it to us. Haha, brother, go ahead. They are just 2 little ghosts. These people didn't take Menma and Naruto seriously at all. Under the urging of Gato's huge money offensive, each of them had red eyes and ran towards Menma and Naruto's position with a howl. Stupid, looking at these gangsters who seemed to be rushing over with full momentum. Menma's eyebrows also revealed a strong murderous aura, and after his lips gently hummed out this word. Shua, the kunai appeared on the palm. The next second, Menma took the initiative to attack and entered the enemy camp. Pucci, wow. With the cold light and the rampant figure, Menma was like mowing the grass, easily harvesting the lives of these gangsters one after another. Wherever he passed, no grass grew. Menma showed no mercy. Completely different from Naruto on the side, that guy was running towards Gato. If someone intercepted him, he would be directly blasted away and knocked down. No real blood was shed. Therefore, although the gangsters were shocked that a child as young as Naruto could be so strong, they did not show too much fear. But here in Menma, less than a minute, there were already 7 or 8 people lying in a pool of blood beside Menma. Seeing Menma's expressionless face and the smell of blood all over his body, these gangsters finally felt scared. Ah, devil, devil, this guy is a devil. Run away, run away. No, this is not something we can deal with at all. Run. The gangsters in the back screamed and threw away their weapons, running to the back of the ship. Some even jumped directly into the sea. In their opinion, even if they drowned, it would be worse than drowning. It would be several times better to face this devilish guy face to face. No matter how stupid these people are, they finally realize how big the gap between themselves and ninjas is. This is simply not a gap that can be bridged by numbers. They don't exist in the same dimension at all. Gato, who was confident and looking at Menma and others with a mocking look a minute ago, was completely drained of all color on his face at this moment. When he saw the people he recruited, they all wished that their parents would give him more children. All the guys with 2 legs who were easy to run were running away desperately. Gato suddenly became extremely panicked and frightened. You idiot, don't run away. I've given you so much money, how can you run away? Come back, come back. Screaming at the top of one's lungs can't call back these heartbroken guys. The moment he met Menma's cold eyes, Gato himself was also shaking violently uncontrollably. Ah. After letting out a cry of fear, Gato also rolled and crawled to escape from here. Hey, where do you want to run? But Gato has already been targeted by Naruto. Haven't taken a step yet. Gato, who had already been directly captured by Naruto with one hand, could not break free, and his 2 limbs immediately started to fight. Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. When I saw Menma walking closer, Gato screamed loudly, while Naruto's expression was extremely shocked and disgusted. His lower body became wet and he became incontinent. Is this guy so courageous? Naruto said in surprise. Sometimes, the so-called evil is this kind of guy, Naruto, there's nothing surprising about it. Menma said calmly. Oh, is that so? But Menma, why are you so cruel? These people are just hired by Gato, right? Can't we just knock them down? Why kill them? They are not hostile ninjas. Naruto nodded as if he had some understanding, and the next second he noticed the scarlet color on Menma's body, as well as the corpses lying in a pool of blood not far away, and said with a frown. Oh, well, I didn't hold back just now. It was indeed a bit too much. I will pay attention to it in the future. Menma nodded slightly and said. This kind of submissive attitude, which was completely different from the previous theory, made Naruto stunned. Originally, when he said these words, Naruto was subconsciously prepared for Menma to refute him, and also planned to have a good argument with Menma again. But Menma's attitude suddenly changed. It really made Naruto unable to react at all. Is this a bad thing? No, it should be said to be a good thing, right? After all, Menma agrees with him, isn't that a good thing? But is it a good thing? At that moment, Naruto had an inexplicable feeling that Menma was far away from him. When he saw Menma, Naruto felt a little bit of intimacy deep in his heart. This was something that Naruto didn't tell anyone, not even Sarutobi Hiruzen, whom he felt he trusted the most. Even during the previous debate over whether to continue this mission, Naruto never felt that this sense of intimacy had disappeared. However, today, in this moment, Naruto felt that sense of intimacy disappear. The Menma in front of him seemed to be very strange, but it was only for a moment. When Naruto looked at Menma, he felt that nothing was different. This feeling was like an illusion, giving Naruto an indescribable feeling of irritability in his heart. Menma, however, had no intention of caring about Naruto anymore. The mission is completed, please bring this guy to Mr. Kakashi. As long as the final information is confirmed, we can successfully complete this mission, and Tazuna-san and the others can rest assured forever. Right hand extended straight out. Like carrying a dead dog, he dragged Gato towards the bow of the ship, where Kakashi was. Naruto also seemed to be waking up from a dream. He shook his head, as if to get rid of the nonsensical thoughts from his mind. He followed Ma's footsteps in small steps and returned to the position beside Kakashi. Although looking at Kato's behavior, one knew that he was not a tough guy, but to be on the safe side, Kakashi still directly used genjutsu to torture him, and the final result was obvious. This mission has nothing to do with the Kingdom of Water and the Hidden Mist Village. This is exactly what Gato did. Zabuza was also hired by Gato using his personal funds. It was finally confirmed that the Kurigakure village had not extended its tentacles to the country of waves, and Kakashi was completely relieved. After all, if the Mist Ninja really took action, Konoha would have to take corresponding countermeasures. Maybe a new round of ninja war is coming. Many times, no matter how small the cause is, it can still drive two big countries to start a war. It seems that there is no need to worry about the follow-up. So, Kakashi-sensei, can this guy be left to me to handle? After Kakashi's torture, Menma also took a step forward and pointed at Gato, who was trapped in the illusion and looked confused. Oh, well, of course, you can handle it as you wish, Menma. Just for a second, Kakashi could guess Menma's intention, and he chuckled and nodded in agreement to Menma's request. He also took out a seal scroll directly from his arms and threw it to Menma. According to Kakashi, this is completely normal, including previous killings. Kakashi also doesn't think there is anything wrong. Since he is standing in front of them with a knife and holding a knife with hostility and hindering them from performing their mission, he is a proper enemy. Killing the enemy is just like eating and drinking water for a ninja. So ordinary. Instead, it was some of Naruto's attitudes and practices. It will make Kakashi feel that it is not so appropriate. Ninjas can have a certain degree of kindness, but they must not affect their own judgment. Ultimately, it will have a bad impact on yourself and even your peers. Well, then I'll come as soon as I can, Kakashi-sensei. Menma took a step forward, and while Kakashi's illusion was still in effect, after asking what he wanted from Kato's mouth, he took Kato back and walked towards the interior of the cabin. Let's go back first, Naruto, leave this to Menma. Yes, brother Kakashi. Naruto nodded subconsciously, and then followed Kakashi's steps. The two of them returned to the direction of the bridge first. After the two left, the ship that had stopped because of the arrival of Kakashi and the other two also set sail again, but it was not heading towards the direction of the wave country, but turned around and headed in the opposite direction. The highest speed sailing was about an hour later. The ship arrived at a small island located directly north of the main island of the wave country. Are you sure it's here? You should know the consequences of deceiving me, Mr. Gato. After the ship stopped at the edge of the island, Menma pushed Gato, who had regained consciousness but still looked pale, out of the cabin and said with a touch of indifference. Hearing Menma's cold words, Gato couldn't help shuddering, nodded hurriedly, and said tremblingly, "Please believe me, Master Menma. Most of my assets are here. I have never deceived you." "Well, that's good. Let's go. You lead the way." Menma nodded lightly. Yes, please come this way, Master," Gato said in a very flattering tone, nodding and bowing. The two of them also walked one after the other. They strode towards the only magnificent building on this island. It went in very smoothly. If it comes out, it will take a while. Because Gato's assets really far exceeded Menma's expectations. Of course, this exceeding expectation also refers to all aspects. First of all, Gato is indeed very rich. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is as rich as any other country. Some small countries even it's really not as rich as a card. But there is not a lot of real cash in Gato. A considerable part of it is real estate, which is distributed in many countries. Let's not mention the Kingdom of Water. The Kingdom of Fire and the Kingdom of Thunder have certain assets in Gato. There, the real cash assets on this island are less than 70 million taels, which is 2, Asuma. This must be a huge sum of money, but there is still something that Menma expected. Not a small gap. But then I thought about it, after all, this was an extra income. Menma was satisfied. After packing all the cash and sealing it in the scroll, he took the real estate certificates with him. Maybe he could use it in the future. Stepping out of Gato's vault, Menma's face showed a long-lost sincere smile. As for Mr. Gato, Menma also sent him on his way. On the road in a physical sense. Following from that, Menma also directly took the ship again and headed south, heading back towards the country of waves. On this trip, Menma already felt that he had made a lot of money. Even if he had to pay part of it out, it was enough to make Menma very satisfied. 10 days later, the bridge that is said to bring hope to the people of the Kingdom of Waves was finally successfully completed with the efforts of Dasna, directly connecting the country of fire and the country of waves. This was also due to the death of Gato. The news allowed the people of the country of waves to eliminate their inner fears, and all the workers who had given up building the bridge because of timidity also returned. With the gathering of manpower and material resources, this bridge can be built ahead of schedule. Team 7 can also embark on the journey back to Konoha. Menma originally suggested that they could go back directly after finishing Gato 10 days ago, but Naruto still insisted on seeing the bridge completed. Menma simply reserved his opinion and said nothing more. Whatever Naruto wants to do, he can do it. As long as it does not affect his core interests, Menma is too lazy to argue. From that day on, Menma has already made up his mind. Menma will never do those meaningless things. I won't comment anymore. Taking care of yourself is the core. That's why. Menma has put on a deeper mask. From the surface, it seems that Menma's personality has become gentler. And this is also a kind of growth of Menma. Today, Menma, a time traveler, has truly integrated into this world and abandoned some of the so-called kindness in his previous life. Of course, that is even more important. It might be more appropriate to call it hypocrisy. It is worth mentioning, during these 10 days, Team 7 did not completely waste time. For example, Sakura and Sasuke started the practice of climbing trees and treading water. After all, they saw that Naruto and Menma could walk on the water so easily. Even as proud as Sasuke, he couldn't remain indifferent. It is impossible for Urzu to refuse any means to become stronger. Sasuke took the initiative, and Kakashi couldn't refuse. The training of the two was so logical. Naruto and Menma also had their own training. Naruto was pestering Kakashi to learn more advanced ninjutsu. Menma started the practice of Rasengan. As an A-level Muji ninjutsu, the power of the Rasengan is undoubted. In the original work, Kabuto Yakushi almost died in the hands of this technique. That means he was a medical ninja, otherwise he would not have been able to withstand it. This technique allows Menma at this stage to increase his attack strength. Naturally, it needs to be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Kakashi is also very aware of the origin of the Menma technique, so he will not be surprised. In the past 10 days, under the training of Team 7, it has quickly spread. Until February 20th, the 7th team finally left the country of waves and embarked on the road back to Konoha. Compared with the time it took to set off, the return journey was much faster. In just less than a few hours, the group of people entered the territory controlled by Konoha Hidden Village. Oh, I'm finally back. It's really been a long time since I've been out here. When Team 7 returned to the gate of Konoha Hidden Village, Naruto stretched a bit and looked at the familiar scenery of his own ninja village. A hint of excitement appeared in his blue eyes. Sakura on the side also had a feeling of excitement that could not be concealed. After all, it was the first time to leave the village, the first time to perform a sea-level mission, and everything could end so perfectly. For Haruno Sakura, it was already worth celebrating, not to mention a considerable amount of extra income. The thought of this, Sakura couldn't help but look at the numb face with a faint smile on the far left. Well, it turned out that I was overthinking it. Menma-kun is still the same Menma-kun. Single quote. It was also at this moment that Sakura Haruno gave full play to her subjective brainstorming ability. With her own filter, she removed all the negative views she had on Mama before, and easily returned to the positive views she had at the beginning of her graduation. The reason was very simple, that is, Menma's attitude became more gentle than before, and he took the initiative to give them a huge amount of money. That was an income far beyond Sakura's imagination. When she thought that she could go back to the village and go crazy shopping, Sakura couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. Well, this time I'm away from the village for a long time, so I'll give you a few days off. You don't need to go to the task handover. Go home and have a good rest, and wait for my next call. Kakashi was the first to step into the main gate of Konohagakure village, then turned his head and looked at Naruto, Menma, Sasuke, and Sakura with a smile. Oh, yes, Kakashi teacher. Yeah, several people also replied in unison. Then, the four of them also leapt and flew towards their respective homes. Kakashi went alone to the area where the mission center building was located. After spending a few minutes handing over the task and receiving the remaining task rewards, Kakashi did not go back to his home directly. Instead, he leapt towards the Hokage building. This mission had more variables, and he also brought back the bodies of Zabuza and Haku, as well as the beheading sword. These things needed to be reported to Sarutobi Hiruzen. This also included Menma's performance in this mission. This was his first time leaving the village. It was also a special test for Menma. Well, is it actually going to involve Zabuza, the demon from Kurigakure village? This is indeed a big surprise. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the two seal scrolls placed on the ground by Kakashi, as well as the beheading sword, with a hint of surprise on his old face. A small C-level mission would be directly upgraded to an A-level mission. Such accidents were not unheard of in the past, but after all, they were in the minority. To actually allow the newly graduated Class 7 to encounter them, this really surprised Sarutobi Hiruzen was a bit unexpected. Then, he waved his hands gently. An Anbu appeared simultaneously, took the sealing scroll and beheading sword on the table, and left. The corpses of these two people are of great research significance. Even if the decapitating sword is not kept in the ninja village for use, it can be used as a bargaining chip with Kurigakure village in the future, and it is a very valuable existence. Then, Kakashi, tell me what you think. What do you think of Menma? Yes, the third generation. I think Menma is a trustworthy and well-trained ninja. I believe that he will definitely become the pillar of Konoha in the future, just like the fourth generation. Kakashi straightened his body and replied in a rare and solemn tone. Sarutobi Hiruzen also crossed his hands on the table at this moment, and looked at Kakashi with an extremely serious look on his face, as if he wanted to confirm repeatedly. At that moment, time and space seemed to have stopped. I don't know how much time passed. Only then did Sarutobi Hiruzen show a faint smile, nodded slightly and said, well, that's good. I'll leave Class 7 to you. I'm most at ease, Kakashi, whether it's Menma or Sasuke, or Naruto, I hope they can all get the right guidance. Yes, third generation Sama, please rest assured. Kakashi also nodded and replied with a serious expression. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded with satisfaction and then waved. Whoosh, Kakashi straightened up and left the office directly. Sarutobi Hiruzen also immersed himself in handling the government affairs belonging to himself as Hokage. Having already returned to his home, Mazaran didn't know whether the third Hokage, who seemed to be 100% at ease with him, was still caring about him, but this was obviously a very normal development. After all, Menma is not as positive, optimistic, innocent and passionate as Naruto in the original work. What's more, a 12-year-old kid still has the 9 tails in his body. Even if he isn't worried about Menma himself, he still has to worry about the possible rebellion of the 9 tails, right? As a Hokage who has been in charge of Konoha Hidden Village for more than 40 years, if he were so careless, it would be impossible for him to firmly control the power of the ninja village. It can be done after the second Hokage Senju Tobirama died in battle. To secure the position of Hokage at the age of 20 is enough to show that Sarutobi Hiruzen is very clever. This is why after reading the original work in his previous life, many people felt that Sarutobi Hiruzen, at least in his prime, turned into a hypocrite wearing a mask. Even though the original work tried its best to explain how kind, how righteous, how bright and majestic this Hokage was, those existing facts just slapped Sarutobi Hiruzen in the face like crazy. Danzo's existence is a point that can never be bypassed. If Hiruzen Sarutobi doesn't know what Danzo is doing, then Hiruzen Sarutobi is stupid. If Hiruzen Sarutobi knows what Danzo is doing, and even adopts a tacit attitude, then Hiruzen Sarutobi is stupid. It's just bad. And if Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't know what Danzo was doing beforehand, and even though he knew it afterwards, he still hesitated and always resorted to a mild rebuke, without any punishment in the real sense, then this third Hokage is stupid and bad. No matter which one it is. This Hokage-sama is not worthy of belief. At least, that's what Menma thinks. Now he won't hesitate at all. At this moment when Konoha is about to face another crisis, Menma really needs to make his next arrangements carefully and comprehensively. What kind of way out should he choose? Although he had considered a series of options before, After eliminating them one by one, Menma found that there were only a few options that he could really choose from, and the one that seemed to be the most reliable was the one. It can only be this guy. Although it is a bit dangerous, it is better than reality. Single quote. Menma looked at the dense black words written on the white paper. When his eyes fixed on a certain word, a sharp color appeared in Menma's pupils. There is no best choice. Some are just the only choice forced by the current situation. It's a big gamble. The gambling chips you need to pay are your own lives, but so what? Since you don't want to live a miserable and useless life, you can only choose to take this path. The time will be set for the Chunin examination in a few months. Single quote. Menma's eyes flashed slightly, thinking silently in his heart. If you want to leave Konoha Hidden Village, in addition to having the minimum self-protection ability, the choice of timing is also crucial. The Chunin examination in the original book and the Konoha collapse plan jointly launched by Sunagakur Village and Odogakur Village were an excellent opportunity. At that time, Konoha was definitely in the most chaotic situation. This was Menma's preferred time to leave Konoha. However, this is only the current preliminary plan, and the goal remains unchanged. However, whether there will be any changes in specific operations and choices will depend on the actual situation. It is not a good thing to follow the script. It is not uncommon for plans to fail to keep up with changes. I still need to have more alternatives. Single quote. Menma took a deep breath and thought to himself. Of course, the most important thing is your own strength. The stronger you are, the greater the initiative you can control. Therefore, during the few days of rest, Menma also didn't relax at all. His Rasengan training in Wave Country was already on the right track. He may not remember other plot details in detail, but Menma still remembers the 3-stage Rasengan training method taught to Naruto by Jiraiya in the original work. It's not impossible to find another way. But since there is a ready-made method, why ask for trouble? Originally, even without the contents recorded in the sealed book, Menma could still learn the Rasengan, but after all, there was no formal way. In the past 12 years, Menmako has been living under surveillance. How could he secretly learn other ninjutsu? Isn't that obviously a way to die? Therefore, even if Menma has some techniques for practicing the techniques in his memory, none of them can be put into practice. He can only repeat the most boring and monotonous basic training. But it's different now. In the Land of Waves, Menma had successfully completed the first stage of spinning the Rasengan while combining other trainings. The second stage of training for the power of the Rasengan, and even the maintenance of the third stage, could be regarded as reaching expected target value. It can be said that he has initially mastered the Rasengan. But there are still some small glitches occasionally. For example, the issue of chakra dissipation. During these few days of rest, what Menma wants to do is to further consolidate the results of his training. Reach the level of complete mastery of the Rasengan. Konohagakure, second training ground. On the morning of the second day after returning to the ninja village. Rasengan. Boom. Menma came here and continued his ninjutsu training. Looking at the not-so-exaggerated pit that was blasted out on the ground. Menma's brows slightly frowned, revealing a not very satisfied look. The chakra compression is still not enough, it needs a larger amount and more stable control. There is no problem with the rotation. The key is to further strengthen it. Do you want to try the shadow clone together? No, that would take too much time. Menma touched his chin and murmured in a low voice. As an A-level ninjutsu, the difficulty of practicing Rasengan is unquestionable. That is, Menma is indeed talented in the technique, so he can master the Rasengan in such a short time. In the original work, Naruto had difficulty controlling chakra because of the interference of the Nine Tails chakra at the beginning. He needed to separate a shadow clone to help control chakra and then use Rasengan. This was originally a last resort. Otherwise, even if Naruto is given another month, let alone a week, he may not be able to master the Rasengan. Splitting a shadow clone and having an extra pair of hands can indeed control the chakra compression more accurately. But in this way, the problem is also obvious. As an A-level ninjutsu, the biggest advantage of Rasengan over other A-level ninjutsu is that it does not require hand seals. If there is an extra step of a shadow clone, wouldn't it greatly weaken the advantages of Rasengan? What people want is speed and surprise. In the later period, Naruto obviously did not have the interference of the Nine Tails chakra, but it was also because he was used to using the Rasengan in this way. Therefore, Menma did not want to use the shadow clone again and again. Condensing chakra with one hand and then releasing the Rasengan was the standard way. This is enough to make the Rasengan one of his strongest attack methods at present. After all, in terms of power alone, the Rasengan can threaten or even kill 95% of the ninjas in the ninja world. Therefore, even if it takes a little more time and a little more effort now, Menma must get used to using the Rasengan with one hand, and the same goes for the future upgrade mode of the Rasengan. Shish, we have to speed up the progress. Menma took a deep breath. Multiple shadow clone technique. This seal is immediately made, and the chakra is slightly controlled, but hundreds of shadow clones are instantly separated, and all are devoted to practice. He believes that there is such a cheating acceleration tool. He can overcome the difficulty of practicing any technique one by one. 3 or 4 days passed quickly under Menma's regular practice rhythm. Kakashi also sent a new call for action. In that fixed location. All the members of Team 7 also gathered on time. Kakashi was naturally late for a while as usual, and the 4 members of Team 7 were already accustomed to it. Hey, everyone, you all seem to have had a good rest these days. You should have recovered completely, right? When Kakashi showed up more than an hour late with a smile on his face. Even though he had warned himself several times. But Naruto still couldn't help but complain. I say, brother Kakashi, can't you be a little more punctual? You're late 9 times out of 10 times, and each time it takes an hour or 2. This is too much. Haha, sorry, I just lost myself on the road of life. I must pay attention next time, I must pay attention. Kakashi still used his thick skin like a city wall to say the most nonsensical reasons. Naruto was immediately angry. Ahem, okay, let's get back to the point. After resting for a few days, our Team 7 also needs to start performing tasks again. By the way, from today on, our Team 7 will only perform tasks above sea level. You should all have no problems, right? Don't give Naruto a second chance to speak. Kakashi also got straight to the point. Will all missions from now on be sea level or above? Great. As expected, Naruto was also attracted by Kakashi's words. When he heard that the missions that their team would perform next would all be sea level or above, Naruto's eyes sparkled with color. Yeah, no problem. Menma raised his eyebrows and nodded calmly. HMPH, it's all right. Nijiru also had an indifferent attitude. Only Sakura was a little uneasy. After all, the shock she received from the first sea level mission was too strong. Even Sakura herself knew that this time's Wave Country mission was an accident. Chunin is not a cabbage, and there are many of them all over the world. Moreover, in principle, it is impossible for ninjas to appear in sea-level missions. However, this thing is easy to be afraid of the rope once bitten by a snake. Haruno Sakura is now one of them. Kakashi could clearly see through Haruno Sakura's state of mind at the moment, but Kakashi did not expose her. Young ninjas always need to overcome some psychological barriers. Since there are no problems, let's go. Oh, yes. The completion of a sea-level mission, and a special sea-level mission with a difficulty of A level, can bring different effects to a team. And with the current strength of Team 7, without counting Kakashi, not to mention sea-level missions, even B-level missions should not be difficult and can be completed easily. There will be no deliberate blocking of tasks at the mission center. Unlike some ninja villages where there are too many monks and too little porridge, the task quota is not enough to be distributed. As the leader of the 5 major ninja villages, Konohagakure village receives a lot of tasks every year, every month, and every day. The ninjas of Konohagakure village dare not say that they can choose tasks at will, but they can definitely say that they don't need to worry about not having tasks to perform. Not to mention the membership of Team 7, just the fact that they are led by Kakashi is enough to make them qualified to choose tasks. The responsible officer here obviously received some instructions from Sarutobi Hiruzen. Team 7 can choose the tasks they want to perform at will. And this second sea-level mission. As the captain, Kakashi received an escort mission to protect a caravan from Konohagakure to Kyoto, the capital of the Land of Fire. This is also the most common sea-level mission and the one with the richest rewards. The boss of the caravan was even more delighted when he saw that a C-level mission could actually hire a senior ninja. He also took the initiative to increase the mission reward a little. However, this reward was no longer very attractive in the eyes of the people in Team 7. Kakashi didn't mention it. Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura all received a huge sum of money from Menma. Sasuke refused at first, but Menma gave too much, so much that Sasuke could hardly say the 3 words, "I don't want it." In the end, he could only say, "It's really fragrant." After all, ninjas still need money. The consumption of various ninja tools requires financial support. Why is Konin's move called Gutun in the original book? It's all because of the 600 billion detonating talismans. Even if that number is false, even if it's halved, or even if 1 0 is removed, it's still an astronomical figure. Therefore, money is very important for ninjas, especially those in the middle and lower levels. They need the support of money. The saying, "poor in literature and rich in martial arts," is also universal in the world of ninjas. In this C-level mission, Team 7 did not encounter any accidents. It was just an ordinary escort mission. On the way, they did encounter some robbers and bandits, but these people were a joke in front of ninjas. Safely escorted the caravan to Kyoto. It also represents the successful completion of Team 7's second C-level mission. The completion of this mission. For Menma, Sasuke, and Naruto, it didn't feel much, but for Haruno Sakura, it was very meaningful. At least it could relax her mentality and not be as tense as before. This was also a link that Kakashi deliberately arranged. Although Haruno Sakura didn't have a very important position in this team, she was his subordinate after all, and judging from her performance in the ninja school, she was also worth cultivating. In the previous chakra control training, Haruno Sakura showed her unique talent. It took others several days to complete the training, but Haruno Sakura only needed 1 day to break through. This is also a kind of extraordinary talent. In terms of chakra control talent alone, Kakashi thought that he could not compare with Haruno Sakura. She had the talent and value to be cultivated, and she was his subordinate. Kakashi naturally could not let Haruno Sakura go free. He still needed to pay more attention to the things that should be paid attention to. Under this special system of the ninja village, the relationship between the leader ninja and the team members is the strongest relationship except for the master and apprentice. Looking at Sakura, who was gradually relaxing and gradually adapting to the rhythm of ninja, Kakashi nodded secretly in his heart. Adaptability. But it is one of the basic abilities that ninjas must have. Many young ninjas who have just graduated cannot adapt to the real rhythm of a ninja and the cruel reality they need to face. After a mission, they directly choose to retire and end their ninja career. This is not shown much in the original work. But it does exist. Including some of Kakashi's peers, after going to the front line and witnessing the tragic death of their comrades and the bloody scenes of hell, they had a mental breakdown and had to give up their ninja careers. Originally, Kakashi had similar concerns about Sakura in the first wave country mission. Later, it was found that this little girl did have a lot of problems, but she didn't have much problem with adaptability. It seems that she is indeed a good seedling worth cultivating. Single quote. Kakashi thought silently in his heart. In fact, the original book also explains this point very well. Sakura idiot is really limited to the initial period. The growth of Haruno Sakura later is also obvious to all. This not only refers to the growth of ninja talents, but also refers to the growth of ninja capacity and mentality. At this stage, Haruno Sakura is indeed very immature. It should even be said that there are big problems in all aspects, especially the mentality. At the beginning of graduation, it was really extremely bad. But it is precisely because of this that the growth is visible to the naked eye. It is already at the bottom, and climbing up a little bit is a significant improvement. The most important thing is, as long as a ninja has talent, it is worth cultivating. A truly smooth C-level mission made Haruno Sakura begin to have a little bit of ninja meaning. Kakashi also gradually found out the bottom of his 4 subordinates, at least in his opinion, in the following days. The team of Team 7 received different types of C-level missions to complete every now and then, such as escorting caravans, clearing ferocious beasts, patrolling designated areas, protecting special personnel, and stealing confidential documents. All are within the hunting range of Team 7. For ninjas, the only criterion for executing tasks is whether they can do it, not whether they can or can't. As the saying goes, things like justice are things that will never be associated with ninjas. In the eyes of ninjas, there are only tasks. This is the kind of education Kakashi received since childhood, and now he teaches the 4 members of Team 7 with similar ideas. And it is under the high efficiency of Team 7 that the number of tasks they performed is also accumulated at a very exaggerated speed. It is far beyond the upper limit that an ordinary team that has just graduated can accept. In just 2 or 3 months, the number of C-level tasks performed and completed by Team 7 is comparable to some senior genin teams that graduated 2 years ago. For them now, C-level tasks, let alone Menma, Naruto, and Sasuke who can handle them easily, even Sakura can face them calmly and handle them easily. This is the improvement of personal strength and the confidence brought by the accumulation of experience. And it is after the number of C-level tasks has accumulated to a certain extent. Kakashi led Team 7 to receive the first real Team B-level task. Although these were not difficult B-level missions, and the opponents were just some wandering ninjas, it was obvious that they had brought a certain degree of training to Team 7. The battles with ordinary people or beasts were at most to accumulate some experience in mission execution. Missions above B-level. It was the beginning of training a ninja. Team 7 had already surpassed other teams inadvertently, including the teams led by Asuma and Yuhi Kurenai, who were just starting to do C-level missions, not to mention other more ordinary teams. Just talking about the number of completed missions. If they continued to execute at this frequency, after a while, the 4 members of Team 7 would probably be eligible to be promoted to Chunin. And it was during such repeated execution of missions. Time gradually moved towards the predetermined plot events and entered the midsummer season. One morning, Konohagakure Village, Hokage Building. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's exclusive office, dozens of ninjas wearing Konoha uniform vests gathered. Among them were Chunin and Jonin. The only thing they had in common was that they were all the captains who were currently leading the genin teams. Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai Yuhi were standing among them. There were also several teachers from the ninja school, including Iruka, who were also here at this moment. The reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen summoned such a group of people to his office at this time was very simple. This is what happened. This time, the Chunin exam will be jointly held by our Konoha and the Sand Village. The participating teams from various countries have arrived one after another. We Konoha also need to determine the final list of participants. In addition to the people who have been reported before, among the teams that have just graduated this year, are there any ninja leaders who want to recommend their own teams? Sarutobi Hiruzen sat on his main seat and said while puffing out smoke. Chunin exam. Didn't expect it to be held this year. If it's next year, it'll be just right. This year, let's not talk about the others, even Menma and Sasuke are still too young. Single quote. In the queue, Iruka also shook his head gently in his heart. In fact, when Sarutobi Hiruzen finished speaking, none of the Chunins who had just led the team this year spoke. They knew their own affairs very well. The teams led by these Chunins were almost all ordinary people. In the past 6 months since graduation, they have been carrying out D-level and C-level tasks. Only a few teams have just started. It's still too early to participate in the Chunin exam. Therefore, none of these Chunins spoke. Iruka's face also showed a look of, as expected. Just when Iruka thought that this meeting would end here. I, Hitaki Kakashi, as a Jonin, recommend Uzumaki Menma, Namikaze Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, and Haruno Sakura to participate in this Chunin exam. I, Sarutobi Asuma, as a Jonin, recommend. I, Kurenai Yuhi. Just like in the original book. Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai Yuhi successively recommended the newly graduated genin in their own team to participate in this Chunin exam. All 3 of them recommended their subordinates. Single quote. They seem to have just graduated, right? Single quote. Is this just a dispute of pride? Single quote. It shouldn't be that serious, right? Single quote. I still don't think it's very reliable. Single quote. Maybe this is a genius. Single quote. The other Chunins in the following positions also showed a hint of surprise, and frequently communicated with each other with their eyes. Iruka's face changed as he stepped out and said to Sarutobi Hiruzen on the main seat in a respectful and hurried tone, Hokage, please forgive me for being blunt. I think it is not appropriate to let the genin who just graduated half a year ago take part in the Chunin exam. Please consider it. Even though Iruka knew that his words might offend the 3 jonin who just recommended his subordinates, as a teacher of the ninja school, Iruka felt that he had an obligation to stand up at this time. He couldn't really let these children take unnecessary risks, right? Iruka-san, Naruto and Menma are no longer your students, but formal Konoha ninjas. And you should not know their growth in the past 6 months, right? As the captain of Team 7, I know their current strength very well. They are fully qualified to take part in this Chunin exam. Before Sarutobi Hiruzen could say anything, Kakashi turned his head and looked at Iruka, saying with a very serious expression. But Iruka obviously didn't believe Kakashi's words, and subconsciously felt that Kakashi and others were forcing things to happen, and was about to say something. Okay, Iruka, just as Kakashi said, Menma, Naruto and others are now official Konoha ninjas. They are qualified to participate in this Chunin exam. This is also a very good training for them, and the recommendation of the Jonin is also a kind of recognition. Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand, interrupted Iruka, and said slowly. Iruka could still refute Kakashi and others' words with courage, but when Sarutobi Hiruzen opened his mouth, even if Iruka had thousands of words, he could only hold them in his heart. After his expression did not change, he sighed silently in his heart, and could only step back and bow his head and answer, yes, Lord Hokage. Well, then the list of participants this time has been finalized. There can be no mistakes in the subsequent preparations. Do you understand? Sarutobi Hiruzen leaned forward slightly and said with a solemn look. Yes, Lord Hokage. The ninjas below also replied in a deep voice at the same time. Then, after explaining some other issues in the end, Sarutobi Hiruzen announced the dissolution. Chunin exam. This is already one of the major affairs of a ninja village. In peacetime, the most direct means of competition among ninja villages in various countries is the Chunin exam. Through such a joint assessment, they can show the strength of their own ninja villages and strive for more task shares for their own ninja villages. This is a major event that really concerns the interests of ninja villages. As the cage of a village, Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally needs to pay special attention. Even though most of the things can be handed over to the people below, there are still some necessary matters that need to be reviewed and handled by Sarutobi Hiruzen himself. For example, it has been confirmed that the cage of Sand Village will come to Konohagakure to watch the final stage of the competition, as well as the daimyos of the Land of Fire, Land of Wind, and some surrounding countries. These people will need to be received by Sarutobi Hiruzen in person. And just when the meeting was just held in the Hokage building, Menma, who was considered to have a vacation time, also stepped towards the largest commercial street in Konohagakure. After completely solving the worries about funds in the previous period, Menma planned to replace himself with a new set of equipment. Not only in terms of ninja tools, but also in terms of his own clothing. Before, he had been wearing almost the same clothes as Naruto in the original book. Of course, it was not ugly. But no matter how you look at it, it feels very rustic. Therefore, Menma took some time to draw a few simple pictures of the clothes, referring to the fire cloud robe of the Akatsuki organization, removing the high collar and the fire cloud part, and modifying it into a coat with middle sleeves. It was matched with dark ninja clothes and slim trousers below. It was directly taken to the largest clothing store in Konohagakure to be customized. Red and black, white and blue, and red and white were ordered for several sets. Today happened to be the day to notify the delivery. After arriving at the store and seeing the finished product, Menma was already very satisfied, and changed into the red and black outfit in the dressing room. Looking at himself in the giant floor-to-ceiling mirror, the corners of Menma's mouth also slightly raised a beautiful arc. Even the clerk behind him subconsciously brightened up. Menma's appearance is very good, and his face is similar to Minato's. Now with this outfit, he looks like a beautiful boy. But it was only for a second. The clerk lowered his eyes again. Menma's image in the eyes of the people in Konohagakure village has not changed at all. It's just because of the forehead protector on Menma's forehead that these people have to suppress their emotions in public. Menma doesn't care about the opinions and feelings of these people. After checking that the other sets of clothes meet his requirements, Menma paid the balance and left the clothing store leisurely. Afterwards, Menma also went to the ninja tool shop again and replenished some shurikens, kunai and detonating charms. During this period of time, not only the tasks, but also the wear and tear of these ninja tools in daily practice and the consumption is still quite exaggerated. In other words, Menma is more arrogant now, otherwise he really wouldn't be able to afford such expenses. Of course, stocking up on more ninja tools is also to prepare for the next plan. It is already summer. When exactly will the Chunin examination be held? The original book does not explain exactly which day it is, but it still gives a rough idea. According to Menma's own estimation, it should be in the recent period. The time difference will definitely not exceed half a month, and the necessary preparations need to be put on the agenda. I hope you won't disappoint me, Orochimaru-san. Single quote. Menma thought silently in his mind. All his plans were based on the actions of this former Sannin. Menma now wants to see the Konoha collapse plan more eagerly than anyone else. As usual, it is even better to develop it more violently than in the original work. Only in that way can he easily leave the Hidden Leaf village without having to worry about too many pursuers. This chakra aura. Just as Menma was returning to his home position, before a corner, he sensed a few chakra auras and a slightly intense noise, and Menma couldn't help but step forward. After a pause, a look of surprise appeared in his pupils. Could it be? When a certain thought appeared in Menma's mind, he subconsciously quickened his pace. Turned corner. The next second, I saw a few familiar figures. Is that true? There were not only the 3 familiar teammates, but also the 3 short figures hiding behind Naruto and Sakura, and the most crucial 2 figures with their backs to him, although it was the first time they saw them. But Menma could identify the 2 figures at a glance. Kankuro, Tamari. Single quote. The biological children of the 4th Kazekage Rasa, the one-tailed Jinchuriki, Gaara's brother and sister. The moment I saw these 2 people, Menma was certain of the fact that the Chunin exams had arrived. You brat, how dare you sneak up on me? I must make you look good. Kankuro stared at Sasuke, who was sitting on the tree trunk with an expressionless face, with a vicious expression. He touched his right hand back, as if he was going to take action right here. Kankuro. After seeing this, Temari's expression changed and she immediately shouted sharply. Kankuro, who woke up directly, also showed a look of annoyance. Although he stopped what he was doing, he still stared at Sasuke and Naruto with vicious eyes. Before Tamari, Kankuro and others could continue to say something. Next is Gaara's gorgeous appearance. It unfolded exactly as in the original work, and then 2 waves of people dispersed. Menma has always been hiding in the shadows and has not come out. It is impossible for these people below to sense Menma's aura. It wasn't until everyone left that Menma stepped out with a touch of uncontrollable joy. Finally coming, Chunin exam. Single quote. Just now I was wondering how long it would be before the Chunin examination came, but I didn't expect that the surprise would come so suddenly. Gaara and the others have already arrived at Konoha Hidden Village. It proves that the Chunin exam is just around the corner. Why wouldn't Menma feel excited? Menma no longer wanted to stay in this village that was full of malice towards him. 12 years, exactly 12 years. I can finally leave here. Single quote. Menma took a deep breath and clenched his hands fiercely at this moment. The successive arrival of reference personnel from major ninja villages also made Konoha Hidden Village more lively. Even some people in the village who are not usually so sensitive will clearly realize that their ninja village may be about to usher in a lively festival, and the genin who have already had similar experiences have received clear notifications from their captains. Everyone started gearing up to prepare for the upcoming Chunin exams. Menma, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura also received Kakashi's summons order the next day. Regarding this recruitment, apart from Menma who was well aware of it, the other 3 people also had some guesses. After all, they had just met the trio from Sunagakur village yesterday, so they naturally had some expectations for the Chunin exam. Naturally, the other 3 people from Team 7 who gathered also noticed Menma's new look. There's nothing wrong with the second pillar, just look at it more. Menma-kun, have you changed your clothes? Sakura's appearance is different. In the past, her appearance was hindered by her clothes. Sakura didn't pay attention to Menma's appearance. After seeing the face numb now with a new look, almost as if the seal had been lifted. Sakura just widened her eyes, and subconsciously compared Menma with Sasuke next to her. Even Sakura, who has always been a staunch Sasuke fan, had to admit at this moment that just based on the appearance of this outfit, Ma is no longer inferior to her beloved Sasuke. And the fiery red shawl hair is actually very eye-catching. Well, the previous outfit wasn't very beautiful. I made a small fortune some time ago, so I changed my outfit by the way. Menma also smiled slightly and said, Yeah, my previous clothes really didn't look good. They completely covered up Menma-kun's charm. Sakura nodded crazily like a chicken pecking at rice. If it weren't for the last bit of reserve that controlled her, Sakura would have become a nymphomaniac again. Tisk, it does look very different like this. Menma, you look much more handsome than before. Naruto also extended his thumb and said with a smile. Thanks. Hey, can you tell me which store Menmazu bought her clothes from? I want to take a look too. Well, I made this custom made. Hey, is it true? Really? Just here. And that was when Naruto and Sakura were asking a little enthusiastically about some details of Menma's new clothes. Whoosh. In the left position, Kakashi's figure also suddenly appeared in a flash. At this moment, there were still 5 or 6 minutes left before the agreed time. When I saw that Kakashi was not late today and even arrived early. Everyone in Class 7 was stunned subconsciously. Kakashi was also stunned for a moment when he saw Menma's new look, although it was not blonde, but red hair. But it must be said that at that moment, in Kakashi's eyes, Menma's figure really overlapped with that of the 4th Hokage for a moment. After all, Naruto's face is more similar to Kushina's, while Menma is more or less similar to Minato. This also caused Kakashi to have a rare brief moment of confusion. Chapter 51. But in just a moment, Kakashi quickly adjusted himself. What's wrong? Everyone looks like they've seen a ghost. Looking at Naruto, Sakura and others with shocked expressions. Kakashi asked with a smile on his hands in his pockets. Of course you're going to be shocked. Brother Kakashi, did you take the wrong medicine today? It's not the time for the mission to start, but you're not late. Naruto widened his eyes and looked at Kakashi's return with a tone of disbelief. Sakura on the side also subconsciously nodded in agreement crazily. You guys, it's very rude to say that, isn't it? Kakashi patted Naruto's head angrily and said, Brother Kakashi, isn't this what you usually do? Could it be that your arrival on time today has something to do with the Chunin exams? Naruto muttered something dissatisfied at first, and the next second, as if he thought of something, he shouted at Kakashi while Sakura and Sasuke looked at him with different colors. Oh, it seems that you have learned about it in advance. Kakashi also showed a little surprise and said, Well, so, we can participate too, right? Brother Kakashi. There is no direct answer, but it is already a clear answer. Naruto's pupils suddenly showed a hint of excitement and eagerness to try. Well, you were right, Naruto. In the name of the captain of Team 7, I have recommended the 4 of you to participate in this Chunin exam. However, the final decision is still in your own hands. This is the registration form. If you want to participate, fill in the corresponding information. Then, 3 days later, take this registration form to classroom 301 of the ninja school. Of course, I have to remind you again. Yes, because you are a special team of 4, and all other participating teams are 3, so if the 4 of you really want to take the assessment together, there will be some special rules. As for what they are, when the time comes you will know. Kakashi took out 4 registration forms from his arms and handed them to Naruto, Sasuke, Menma, and Sakura on the opposite side, and said in a calm tone. Special rules. What is that, Brother Kakashi? After Naruto subconsciously took the registration form, he also asked very curiously. Then this is not something that can be revealed now. You will know anyway. Kakashi said with a slight smile. Naruto lengthened his tone and said with a deliberately dissatisfied tone. Okay, the deadline for registration is until the morning of 3 days later. If you want to participate, you should think carefully about it during these 3 days. There is no need to force yourself. Kakashi waved his hand and directly interrupted Naruto's words. Haha, I don't need to think about it. Kakashi-sensei, I will definitely participate in the Chunin exam. Menma on the side chuckled and said directly when Kakashi finished speaking. Menma's words had just finished. Sasuke on the side looked up slightly and looked at Kakashi and said calmly, I will participate too. Chunin exam. There are contestants from all major ninja villages, and there must be very strong ones here. For Sasuke, this is a good stage to hone himself and improve himself, and he naturally cannot miss it. And in the past period of time, I have never found a suitable opportunity to challenge Menma. This time the Chunin exam may be a good opportunity. The thought of this, Sasuke also glanced at Menma subconsciously. Before Menma's eyes moved over, he turned back again as if nothing had happened. Naruto was slightly behind half a beat. After hearing Menma and Sasuke's words, he also hurriedly said, I will definitely take part. In such an exam, I will definitely be able to fight with many people. There is no need to hesitate about this. This is also a completely foreseeable result for Kakashi. With the personalities of the three, the potential of the three, and the power that the three have shown at this stage, Kakashi couldn't think of any reason for Menma and the others not to take the Chunin exam. Just as he said, Iruka said, in the past half year, the strength of the three people has grown very obviously. As the captain of Team 7, Kakashi knows this best. Only Haruno Sakura. This is something that Kakashi cannot be 100% sure about. Although Haruno Sakura has a unique talent in chakra control, judging from Kakashi's experience, the future Haruno Sakura will be able to master illusions and medical ninjutsu. Continue to develop in technology. But it is definitely not the moment. The main reason for this is that Haruno Sakura's current capacity, mentality, and will are too weak. If Kakashi must be allowed to speak, Haruno Sakura is really reluctant to participate in this Chunin exam, but Kakashi will not say these words. He still leaves the decision-making power in the hands of his subordinates. This is also a way to train Haruno Sakura. It just depends on whether she has such determination. In fact, Haruno Sakura was really conflicted at the moment. Since all three teammates were going to participate, she should have followed the crowd, but she was still a little afraid of such occasions. It was mainly a question of mentality. Especially when she saw that Menma, Naruto, and Sasuke in the same team were so good, Haruno Sakura really had no confidence in herself. In every previous mission, she was mostly just a supporting role, and Kakashi was there to back her up. Haruno Sakura was not very panicked, but this time the Chunin exam was obviously different. In Kakashi's brief introduction just now, Haruno Sakura could clearly realize that the genin from various ninja villages were likely to be the best in their respective villages. Haruno Sakura was afraid that she would be embarrassed at that time, or even drag down the entire team. The hesitation and entanglement on her face. The other four people present saw it clearly. Just when Naruto was about to encourage Haruno Sakura. Okay, you guys, don't be so absolute. The people who came this time are all the best from the major ninja villages. You have just graduated for more than half a year. Just like what I said just now, go back and think about it for a few days. Kakashi took the lead and spoke directly. Although it was only Haruno Sakura who was hesitating, Kakashi deliberately included the three Menma in order not to put too much pressure on Haruno Sakura. Kakashi hoped that Haruno Sakura could think clearly and make her own decision in a peaceful state of mind. Yes, Kakashi teacher. Yeah, I understand, brother Kakashi. Sakura also looked relieved. Although she still had to make her own choice in the end, at least she didn't need to make up her mind immediately. After all, she could relax a little. Yes, Kakashi teacher. Well, then, let's disband today. After Kakashi nodded, puff, it turned into a ball of white mist and then disappeared. Menma and the other four also left with different emotions. It's coming, the Chunin exam. Single quote. 3 days. It passed quickly. Before the last day of registration deadline, the contestants from the farthest ninja village also successfully arrived at Konoha Hidden Village. There were at least 3 or 4 participating teams from each ninja village. Accompanying these people with the arrival of the ninja village, even the most insensitive people in Konoha Hidden Village clearly knew the news that their ninja village was about to hold the Chunin exam. Some shop owners who have already sensed business opportunities have begun to prepare more products, because they know very well that now they are just appetizers, but in the final stage of the Chunin exam, they will have more products. The high-level aristocrats and dignitaries from their country of fire and surrounding countries, these people are huge consumer groups. Of course they have to prepare in advance. Konoha Hidden Village has also ushered in its most prosperous and noisy season for the first time in a long time. When Menma returned to the ninja school at a given time after a long absence, he saw all kinds of ninjas wearing different forehead protectors. Of course, their Konoha participating genin still accounted for the largest proportion. Coming down is Sunagakur Village, which is also one of the 5 major ninja villages. Next are the genin from various small and medium-sized ninja villages such as Kusanagi, Tang Ninja, Taki Ninja, and Sound Ninja. Although none of them seem to be easy to mess with. But not many are truly noteworthy. Yakushi Kabuto. Well, it's not here. It seems that it should have gone in first, right? Single quote. Menma stood at the front entrance and glanced around at the other ninjas around him. A faint strange color flashed in his pupils. If you can find Orochimaru directly, that would of course be the best. In fact, according to the original plot, he did have such an opportunity. After all, Uncle Snake wanted to come to Sasuke in person. However, in such an occasion, his teammates must be all there, so it was not suitable to talk to Uncle Snake in person. What Ma needs is an opportunity to talk to Uncle Snake alone, and Kabuto Yakushi is a very good bridge. Let's go to the second round first and see what the opportunities are. Single quote. Menma thought internally. Almost a few more minutes later, Sasuke and Naruto also arrived one after another. Only Sakura's figure didn't appear for a long time. Menma and the other two waited at the door for a little while longer, all thinking that Sakura had chosen not to take the Chunin exam. The next second, Haruno Sakura's figure appeared in front of the 3 people's eyes. Oh, Sakura, I knew you would definitely come to participate. Naruto shouted with a smile on his face, waving his right hand vigorously. Well, Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, and Menma-kun, all 3 of you are participating. I definitely can't back down. I will try not to hold you back in this Chunin exam. Sakura walked closer, took a deep breath, and looked at Naruto, Menma, and Sasuke with a firm look and said, "Oh, you just need this kind of momentum, Sakura, what else is holding you back? We are all companions, we just have to help each other." Naruto gave a thumbs up and smiled. Sasuke and Menma still looked calm. To them, Haruno Sakura's participation in this Chunin exam was simply an indifferent attitude. Okay, now that everyone is here, let's go in. There is only a little time left. Menma smiled slightly and took the lead in walking at the front. Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura also took steps to follow closely. Walking all the way through, it can be clearly seen that the ninjas from various countries who entered the ninja school are divided into distinct groups. Each looks at each other with a scrutinizing look. Some genin do not even hide their hostility at all. This is also the most common in the ninja world, seen. In the past few decades, even if the 3 ninja wars were not included, even in the most ordinary tasks, the fighting between the major ninja villages was enough to bring the strongest hatred to each other. And this kind of hatred is the easiest to pass on to the next generation, or even the next generation. Will the hatred disappear with the passage of time? This ninja world is a joke. Because in the ninja world, old hatreds are often not forgotten, and new hatreds arise again. Day after day, year after year, hatred will only accumulate as time goes by, becoming more and more intense and becoming more and more difficult to forget. This is human nature. Therefore, the kind of world where people understand each other mentioned by Senju Hashirama, Jiraiya, and Naruto in the original work is a naive and stupid statement. It is a completely impossible fantasy world. Isn't the attitude of these genin who are now coming to Konoha Hidden Village to take the Chunin exam the best proof? At least Menma didn't believe what Naruto and Jiraiya said. Putting aside this life, weren't there many similar things in his previous life? History is already the best answer, not to mention that it continues to appear repeatedly in this world. Human beings are such a creature. Not to mention that the most essential original sin of the struggle between the major countries is still interests. Unless all countries disappear and there is only one country or one collective left in the world, then the link of hatred may indeed be cut off and forgotten as time goes by. Although the competition and conflict of interests cannot be completely eliminated, they can indeed be controlled within the minimum range. This is not a perfect solution, but it is indeed the best solution that can be seen at present. However, Menma will not consider these at present. His freedom and his life are not completely in his own hands. What qualifications and margins do he have to consider such luxury? Letting himself live freely is the most realistic problem that Menma needs to pay attention to at present. There are so many people. It seems that many ninja villages have come to participate. When Naruto saw so many ninjas from different ninja villages, his expression on his face became more excited. Sasuke, who was walking on the left, also revealed a full fighting spirit in the depths of his pupils. There are so many people and so many ninja villages. There must be a few opponents worth fighting here, right? Yeah, it looks like there will be hundreds of people participating. Sakura bit her lower lip lightly, her heart was involuntarily clenched at this moment. However, after seeing that Menma, Naruto, and Sasuke were not nervous at all, Sakura's emotions also calmed down inexplicably. Her teammates are stronger than each other. Straight through the corridor, headed towards the classroom 301. However, when he walked to the far right of the teaching building, the crowded crowd in front blocked the way forward. There was a noise and even scolding. And the two, familiar, figures in the innermost. Menma's eyebrows couldn't help but raise. Kamizuki Izumo, and Gong Zidetsu. These two Konoha Gate gods have a lot of roles in the original novel. In terms of strength alone, they should be considered the best among the Chunin. The fact that they can fight with Kakuzu and have not been killed instantly is enough to prove this. No matter how weak Kakuzu is, he is still a cage-level existence, and not every Chunin can challenge him. Even without the original plot reference, Menma can see through the two's not-so-sophisticated transformation techniques and the low-level illusions they set up. To put it bluntly, the Chunin exam has already begun from here. Izumo and Zidetsu set up the first test for the genin from various countries. If you can't even see through this simple illusion, then there is really no point in taking the Chunin exam. It's just that the acting skills of these two are really too poor, and at most they can deceive those genin who have no experience at all. After taking a look, Menma turned his gaze to the figure of the green monster lying on the ground. The moment he saw this figure, Menma's eyes also condensed slightly. Lock Lee, single quote, a young man who can also be called a genius. 8 Gates of the Ninja. This is not a technique that anyone can learn and master. If this technique is really not difficult to learn and does not require talent and ability, there will definitely be a large number of people in Danzo's route who will learn this technique. Xiao Li can reach the level of opening the 5 gates at this age, both because of his own efforts and because of his own talents. For such an existence, Menma will of course pay more attention to it. Is this an illusion? Are these two people deliberately blocking here? Menma can see through this inferior illusion at a glance. Sasuke and Sakura are naturally no exception. Not to mention that they are also familiar with the layout of the ninja school. This place can't be classroom 301 at all. What? Is it an illusion? I was wondering why it was a bit strange. It seems that classroom 301 is on another floor. Naruto was the only one who really didn't see through this illusion. When Sakura's words fell, he said with a look of sudden enlightenment. Naruto-kun, I think this should be see-through. Sakura said with a little helplessness. Ahaha, I was just careless. Naruto scratched the back of his head and laughed awkwardly. Sasuke on the side also showed a look of disgust. Well, this should be the appetizer before the formal assessment. There is no need for us to waste time here. Let's go directly. Menma smiled and nodded, and the 4 of them walked straight through the crowd and walked to the front position. And when they saw Menma, Naruto and his group approaching, Izumo and Katetsu's pupils shrank slightly. This is of course because of the identities of the people in Team 7. Menma is the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Naruto is the son of the 4th Hokage, and Sasuke is the only orphan of the former Uchiha family in the Hidden Leaf Village. Such a combination is easy to attract attention. In addition, during this period of time, the number and quality of tasks performed by Team 7 are far beyond the average genin team. Izumo and Zidetsu will naturally pay more attention. However, it was only for a moment. The two still maintained a deliberately arrogant look on their faces, and when they were about to say something. Excuse me, can you please move aside? You are blocking our way upstairs, and we still have to go to classroom 301. Menma said softly with a touch of peace. Those gentle and plain words. What does this mean? Isn't this 301? Except for those who were watching the show, the remaining supporting genin were all shocked and looked at Menma and his group. Wow, finally, a reliable guy has come. Azumo on the side untied the covering illusion casually, and clearly showed a surprised expression that was completely deliberately pretended. Accompanied by the disappearance of the 301 feet house number and the reappearance of the stairs. However, being able to see through is one thing. If you want to pass through here, you have to defeat us. Ziti also looked at Menma and others with a very arrogant expression, and said in a provocative tone. Defeat you. Menma didn't say anything yet. Sasuke in the back position couldn't stand this guy's deliberate provocation. Boom! With an explosion of chakra under his feet. Sasuke quickly approached Ziti, swung his arms up, and swung down like a whip. At the angle of the heavy blow, Ziti still looked leisurely. The blocking posture in the extreme time. Just at that moment. Swoosh! Quote, a green shadow flashed. Bang! It stood between Sasuke and Zitetsu, and with its hands stretched out, it easily blocked the attacks of both of them. This figure was Rock Lee, who had just pretended to be knocked to the ground. This was an incredibly fast speed. Not to mention Sasuke, Ziti across from him showed a look of shock. This boy, can it be so fast? Single quote. And it can obviously be judged that they have not tried their best. Who are you? Sasuke looked coldly at Xiaoli who blocked his attack, and asked in a bad tone. I'm a Konoha genin just like you, Sasuke-kun, but I graduated a year earlier than you. My name is Rock Lee. Xiaoli changed his timid look before and looked directly at Sasuke with piercing eyes. The fierce fighting spirit in his pupils could be seen by any normal person. This is a huge contrast. It also made Sasuke frown. Xiaoli, didn't you agree to keep a low profile? Why did you just rush out? In one side position, after seeing Xiaoli rushing out. As teammates, Hyuga Neji and Tenten also walked out simultaneously. While speaking to Xiaoli, his eyes were moving back and forth between Menma, Sasuke, and Naruto. Unlike in the original work, he only cares about Sasuke. In this life, Ningji was paying close attention to Ma and the three of them. I'm sorry, Neji, I couldn't control myself all of a sudden. After all, these are Sasuke-kun, Menma-kun, and Master Naruto. Xiaoli first said to Neji with a hint of apology, and then turned to look at Menma, Sasuke, and Naruto. This is almost an expression full of fighting spirit. Sasuke's surname is Uchiha. Naruto is the son of the 4th Hokage. Menma is the #1 graduate in this class. No matter which one it is, Xiaoli finds it very challenging and meaningful. Xiaoli, I'm really sorry, Sasuke-kun, Menma-kun, and Master Naruto. This companion of mine is a little impulsive, but as he said, we are the graduates of the last class. I am very concerned about you three. Oh, by the way, I forgot to introduce myself, I am from the Hyuga clan, my name is Neji, please give me your advice. Quote. Neji looked at Menma and Sasuke with a dull expression, and his eyes only showed a hint of respect when they turned to Naruto. This is probably the gene engraved in Neji's bones. My name is Tiantian, and I want to tell you that Ninki is the first in our class. Tiantian, the Chinese style girl standing next to Ninki, also said with a smile. Her sight kept moving back and forth between Menma, Naruto, and Sasuke. After all, in terms of appearance, Menma and the other two were not inferior to Ninki at all. For a handsome man, let alone other things, at least for girls, it was a very pleasing thing to look at, wasn't it? Tiantian was also a little jealous of Sakura standing next to the three. As for the two Konoha Gate gods who were in everyone's sight just now, they took this opportunity to quietly leave. Among the people present, except for Menma, no one noticed. Oh, the first place winner of the last term. Do you want to compete with me? I welcome you very much. Hey, you don't have to call me master or anything like that. Just call me by my name. Naruto on the side might be a little slow at other times, but his reaction in this regard is extremely fast. Almost as soon as Neji finished speaking, Naruto's eyes lit up, and he said with an eager expression. Jijuzi felt that the other party was provoking him, and his expression became very gloomy. He was almost ready to lose his temper. Okay, Naruto, now is not the time for you to waste time. The Chunin exam is about to start. Let's go. Menma also stepped forward in time and said these words gently. Oh, not only Naruto, even Sasuke's momentum stagnated. Although there was no clear words, in the past few months, no matter what mission was carried out, Menma had always been in a position close to command. When Kakashi often let it go, Menma gave instructions for the execution of the mission of Team 7. Over time, the other 3 members of Team 7 also developed the habit of following Menma's command. Although Sasuke still felt a little uncomfortable with his personality. But on the one hand, Menma's command was never wrong, and on the other hand, Menma wanted to be better than himself. Sasuke chose to acquiesce. Although you graduated only a year earlier, you can be considered a senior. It seems that Neji-san and Lee-san are very familiar with us. We will not introduce ourselves. If the 2 seniors want to fight, this is not the right time and place. The next step is the Chunin exam. I think there are plenty of opportunities, right? Then, we will be rude first, the 3 seniors. Menma smiled lightly, turned around and took the lead to step towards the stairs. Nizuzi also snorted lightly, glanced coldly at Neji and Lee, and followed. Menma is right. If we want to fight, this exam is indeed the most suitable stage. Let's see the truth in the exam, Neji-san, Lee-san. Naruto also smiled and waved his hand, followed by Sakura, and stepped upstairs. Uzumaki Menma, Namikaze Naruto, and Uchiha Sasuke. It seems that this Chunin exam will be very interesting. Ninki looked at the backs of Menma and others leaving, and a different bright color appeared in his pupils. Menma, who had already left, naturally didn't know that Neji's fighting spirit was also fully aroused. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care. It's still the same sentence. Menma now treats all people and affairs in Konohagakure village with the most indifferent attitude. As long as they are not the limited few and those who will stop him in the future, the rest of them are indifferent in Menma's eyes. Stepping up the floor, arriving at the door of the real 301 classroom. Menma and his 4 companions pushed the door open and entered. What came into view was a huge group of people. These people also subconsciously looked at the moment when Menma and his companions pushed open the door, but most of them turned their eyes back the next moment. Only a few of them looked at Naruto and Sasuke on both sides of Menma, and their eyes were fixed. Special identities are often the easiest to attract the attention of others. Although Menma's identity as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki has long been known to the whole ninja world under Sarutobi Hiruzen's ridiculous gag order, it is only known to people with a certain status. It is unlikely that the genin will know what the so-called Jinchuriki is. Therefore, these people are unlikely to pay too much attention to Menma. Only one man with glasses and wearing a Konoha ninja forehead protector, who looked elegant and gentle, had a faint strange color flashing in the deepest part of his pupils when he saw Menma appear. This elegant and easy-going man was naturally the most trusted and capable subordinate of Orochimaru, Kabuto Yakushi. Team 7 is also here to participate in this Chunin exam. It seems that we need to report to Lord Orochimaru in advance. Single quote. Kabuto Yakushi pushed his glasses, his eyes passed over Menma, and jumped directly to Sasuke on the right, thinking silently in his heart. He himself was also thinking about finding an opportunity to contact Team 7. After all, collecting intelligence is his specialty. On the other side, what Menma didn't know was that Kabuto Yakushi had been eyeing him for a long time. When he entered the classroom, he seemed to be scanning everyone. Except for Gaara, Menma paid a little attention to him, but he just glanced at everyone else. The real target of the search was Kabuto Yakushi. When he saw Kabuto Yakushi in the crowd, he looked harmless and easygoing, just like a good man. Menma couldn't help but sigh in his heart that he was indeed one of the strongest spies in the original work. With this acting skill, he was definitely a top figure in the huge ninja world. To say something that is not exaggerated, if Kabuto Yakushi were in Menma's previous life, he would definitely win an Oscar for Best Actor in terms of acting skills. This is also the most important reason why Kabuto Yakushi can act as a multifaceted spy. The most important thing is that this person is not just a strong spy. As a ninja, his personal strength is currently at the level of an elite jonin. Therefore, Menma can't look at Kabuto Yakushi more. Such ninjas are very sensitive to any attention. It's enough to identify the person, and the next step is to find the right time. Single quote. Menma exhaled a breath of foul air and thought silently in his heart. You actually came to participate in such a troublesome thing. I thought only our class was recommended. Others would not care when they saw Menma and his group. But there were still a few figures in the crowd who would take the initiative to approach Menma and his group after seeing them. They were the 6 genin from the 8th and 10th classes who graduated together as classmates. Menma looked up and the first person he saw was Shikamaru Nara, who was approaching with a very troublesome expression on his face. The ones following behind were naturally Choji and Ino. Aren't you coming to participate too? Shikamaru. Menma said with a slight smile. To be honest, in the Hidden Leaf Village, there are not many people who don't dislike Menma, and even have a little favorable impression. Shikamaru is definitely one of them, whether it is Shikamaru's intelligence or Shikamaru's character. It makes people feel disgusted. Under normal circumstances, they are happy to make friends with such people. However, for Menma, who is unwilling to follow the path of the original Naruto, friends in Konoha Hidden Village are a luxury. It will even appear naive and stupid. Is it possible that he also wants to get a so-called bond? That's really a joke. There may be such an opportunity someday in the future, but it will never be now. Or to be more precise, the bond he wants is a bond that can walk side by side with him. Hey, it's also forced. Shikamaru shrugged and said with an obviously helpless expression. It's great to be able to take the Chunin exams, but you still look unhappy, Shikamaru. Naruto on the side also smiled and patted Shikamaru's shoulder and said. The look of helplessness on Shikamaru's face became even more intense. Sasuke still looked cool. Even when Shikamaru and Choji took the initiative to say hello, Sasuke just nodded lightly in response. If it were anyone else, they would have felt that Sasuke was provoking them. That is, Shikamaru and Choji had a gentle personality, and as fellow students, they had long been aware of Sasuke's stinky personality. Oh, Menma-kun, have you changed your clothes? Wow, you look much more attractive than before. At this stage, the focus is more on the appearance of girls. The moment Ino saw Menma and the others. At first, all his eyes were on Sasuke, but the next second he was attracted by Menma's new outfit, and the bright colors appeared in his bright eyes. He said this with a very surprised tone. Menma's body is indeed much more handsome than before. Choji on the side nodded while eating snacks, looking at Menma happily and said. Well, thank you, Menma replied with a smile. Hey, all the good things have gone to you, Sakura, you are so lucky. Ino also looked at Haruno Sakura with a hint of jealousy. Hehe, are you envious? It's a pity that you don't have such a chance, Ino. Haruno Sakura said with her hands on her hips and a very proud look. How can we repair it? Your wide forehead makes me so angry. Well, broad forehead. This is another familiar plot of girls falling in love and killing each other. Menma, Shikamaru, Naruto, Choji and others have long been used to it. At the same time, the 3 people from Class 8 on the other side also approached simultaneously. 10 people can be considered acquaintances. The voice of the conversation also gradually became a little more lively. This also aroused the dissatisfaction of some of the other genin around. Naturally, the genin who were also from the Hidden Leaf Village would not express anything. Even if they were really unhappy, this was still a ninja village, and the superficial skills needed to be maintained. But the people in other ninja villages are not so easy to get along with. Hey kid, this is not your home. Please be quiet. If the noise continues, I will. A scarred man wearing a tacky nin forehead protector stepped out with a very fierce expression. Those arrogant words just spoken. Before I finish speaking. In the opposite position, Menma turned around and took a step forward. Boom! The terrifying chakra aura that erupted from his body was far beyond that of ordinary genin. And the faint cold murderous intention that permeated the air. Oh, then tell me, what do you want? Menma's face changed as if he were flipping through a book. One second he was still smiling gently, and the next second he had a stern look on his face, looking coldly at the scarred man, with his cheek completely locked. The tacky nin's expression couldn't help but change, sweat suddenly appeared on his forehead, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. This breath, it is far stronger than myself. This guy. I've killed people, and there's more than one. And this chakra aura, this guy is no ordinary genin. It seems like a tough move. The other genin around him all looked at Menma with a hint of surprise. Among the crowd at the rear, Neji, Xiao Li, Gaara, Yakushi Kabuto and others also looked at Menma's position with a different expression. There was also a timid-looking girl in the corner of the crowd, with the same flaming red hair as Menma. At this moment, she looked at Menma with a hint of surprise and curiosity. Everyone including Shikamaru, Kiba, Choji and others seemed to want to get to know Menma again. In less than half a year, the top one in this session seems to have undergone earth-shaking changes. The Taki Nin, who was completely intimidated by Menma's aura, seemed to be in a very embarrassing situation. Can't get in again. There is no way to retreat. It happened to be at this delicate moment. Pong. The door above the classroom was suddenly pushed open. Crash. Da 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 da. A group of ninjas wearing Konoha-style vests walked in, led by a man wearing a black coat and a fierce face. Quiet. That fierce man walked straight to the podium, put his hands in his pockets, and scanned all the genin present with his extremely cold eyes. His cold words also touched the hearts of most genin present. A chill. The Taki Nin also used this step to quickly retreat to the side of his companion. Menma also glanced at the Taki Nin lightly, and then all his attention was focused on the man in black standing on the podium. This person is the torture expert of Konoha Hidden Village. HMPH, it seems that everyone's interest is very high. I can understand this. After all, it is the Chunin exam. However, I want to give you a reminder here. No matter how excited you are, this is the examination room, and I am the examiner for your first round of assessment. My name is Morino Ihiki. During the assessment, all your actions must obey my command and comply with my requirements. Once there is any behavior that I do not allow, if he messes around privately, I will immediately disqualify him from taking the exam, do you understand? Ibiki looked at the genin below with a stern expression, and the words he spoke each word were accompanied by the permeating cold atmosphere. Even the most unruly existence among this group of genin was able to restrain his wildness a little. Looking at the silent situation below, Yubixi also nodded with satisfaction. Very good, then let's start your first assessment. Submit all your application forms, and then sit in the corresponding seat according to the number you received. This assessment is a written examination. Morino Ihiki motioned to several Konoha Chunin on the side to each take out a cardboard box, and then said the same to the many genin in the classroom. Oh, a written test. It looks like this one will be easy. After hearing Ibiki's words, I saw the Chunin holding the test papers. Sakura's face suddenly showed a hint of joy. The corners of Sakura's mouth were raised to the highest arc at this moment. There is no doubt that for an ultimate theoretical student like Sakura, for a mere written test, there is definitely no pressure at all. In the past study career of the ninja school, Haruno Sakura's theoretical test has never fallen out of the top 3 in the class. Sakura thought to herself that no matter how difficult the test paper is, as long as it is in line with common sense, she will definitely be able to answer it. Menma, Sasuke, Ino, Hinata, Shino, and even Shikamaru said that there is no great pressure. Only Choji, Naruto, and Kiba's expressions were instantly petrified. Ah, pen, written test. What? Naruto's words became a little stuttering. Naruto, who is fearless, is really afraid of this kind of theoretical written test. He really can't do it. Kiba and Choji may be a little stronger than Naruto, but they are also limited. Now, the 3 of them are worried that they will not even pass the first round of the test. However, the content of the exam is a given. What is supposed to be is what is. This is an unchangeable reality. Naruto, Kiba, and Choji can only hold the awareness of rushing to death and follow their teammates. They go forward one by one, hand in the application form, get the corresponding number plate, and sit down. Menma didn't care about this first test at all. If it wasn't for entering the forest of death and getting a chance to meet with that snake uncle alone, Menma would have no interest in this Chunin exam itself. It's just a formality. The exam rules that Ibiki continued to say above. Especially when he heard that the final score was determined by the average score of the team. It also brought different degrees of inner shock to other genin, including Sakura, Naruto and others, but Menma's heart was still calm. The last rule is that the content of the 10th question will be announced after 45 minutes. Now, the exam begins. And with the last words of Morino Ibiki, swish, 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 the whole examination room was filled with the sound of pens moving. The core of the first written test in the Chunin exam is not to test how much theoretical knowledge you have mastered. Of course, if you can rely purely on your academic mastery to answer the questions, it is also okay. But the real purpose of this test is to test the intelligence gathering and situation judgment capabilities of the genin. As Ibiki said, don't use clumsy cheating methods, and ninjas should look like ninjas, and so on. It is telling the candidates in both explicit and implicit ways. Hurry up and find the right person to copy the answers, but you must use clever cheating methods. To put it bluntly, as long as your cheating methods are clever enough and meet the minimum requirements of the examiner, even if they are seen through, the examiner will not point it out. On the contrary, that means you will be eliminated. Smart people can hear Ibiki's suggestive words, but the results of those who are not smart enough are obvious. Therefore, in just less than 10 minutes after the opening, second row, third, fifth row, first, last row, fifth, and you, the words of the examiners kept ringing beside. One after another, the examinees were deducted points, and then accumulated to 0 points, and then cleared out. This ruthless attitude, it also brought a heavy blow to the hearts of those who were not determined enough. It can be said that this torture expert from the Hidden Leaf village is very good at putting pressure on others. Even if this is not his torture room, he cannot use any torture instruments, but only through words, applications, and atmosphere. Morino Ibiki still turned this examination room into his special torture stage. The objects of torture are naturally these candidates. Under the constant pressure of the examiner team led by Ibiki, some people with weak willpower are already sweating profusely and their mentality has begun to lose balance. The other candidates who left the stage one after another could easily bring great psychological pressure to the remaining people, not to mention the team joint liability rule announced by Ibiki before. The number of people was decreasing sharply. The exam was just halfway through. The number of nearly 100 genin candidates had already been reduced by nearly 1/3. And when he saw that the time was almost up, Morino Ibiki also planned to give the remaining candidates a final blow. The opening remarks that were just as terrifying to ordinary genin, and the rules of the 10th question that were just as deterrent. Now, it's your turn to choose. When Morino Ibiki looked at the remaining candidates below with a very cruel expression and said these words that sounded like the whisper of a devil, the hearts of most of the candidates instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. This extreme mental torture, it also became the last straw that broke the camel's back for these candidates. Number 25 gave up, and the candidates in the same team are disqualified. Number 79 gave up, and the candidates in the same team are disqualified. Number 104 gave up. After a minute of deathly silence, the candidates who stood up slowly like machines also gave up their qualifications for the exam one after another. Ibiki, who was in the first position, still had an expressionless expression. He just looked indifferently at the candidates leaving below, and the candidates who were still struggling and hesitating on the ground. In Ibiki's opinion, a guy who can't even bear this little pressure is not qualified to become a Chunin. This is another rapidly decreasing group of people. Ibiki silently counted the remaining people. At the same time, he also planned to add fuel to the fire. There is still one last minute. If you don't give up now, after I announce the content of the 10th question, you will have no way out. This continues to exert pressure. The further pressure is to break the spirit of the candidates. However, the candidates who had not given up before were unlikely to give up at this last moment. Including Sakura, Ino, Choji and others who had hesitated just now, they all chose to persevere in the end. Not to mention Naruto's positive and optimistic attitude. In the silent classroom 301, after waiting for a minute or two at the end, I saw that no candidate gave up. Are we almost here? Single quote. Most of the remaining candidates looked at them with determination on their faces. Yubixi also nodded secretly in his heart. Then with a wave of his hand, the hearts of most of the candidates below were in suspense. Yubixi suddenly smiled and said, "Very good, it seems that you are all ready to wake up. Then, I declare that the remaining personnel are all qualified." Ha, what? One after the other. A sudden and dramatic change. This is a complete psychological gap. Not to mention Menma, who is an insider of the original story. Among the people present, except for a few people with relatively quick brain reactions, they seemed to have some understanding. The other genin all looked confused. I can't understand what Ibiki's flipping back and forth means at all. Looking at the confused and incomprehensible genin below, Ibiki also showed a faint smile. He also explained the real intention of the 10th question to the genin who stayed behind in the most concise words, including the test intention of the previous 9 questions, which Ibiki told the genin below. This also made most of the genin who just had the death-like awareness show a very complicated expression. They didn't know whether they should be glad that they could pass this round of assessment. Anyway, for most genin, this written test is not a bad impression. Looking at Ibiki with a faint smile at the top, these people couldn't help but feel angry. Anyway, I still want to congratulate you for passing this assessment successfully. Next. Ibiki paused and was about to say something else. Whoosh, bang, crack, crash, suddenly. The window on the left side of the classroom exploded. A slender and straight figure flashed in, and along with the unfolding curtain, a young woman wearing a mesh tights and a light yellow windbreaker appeared directly in the eyes of Menma and others. You ignorant brats, now is not the time to be happy and relax. I am the examiner of the second round of the Chunin exam, Mitarashi Red Bean. The next exam is about to start. You fools, keep up with me. An extremely exaggerated way of appearance. And the deliberately high tone. Looking at this young woman who suddenly appeared and claimed to be the examiner of the second round of the exam, most of the genin below showed a petrified expression. Is there something wrong with this examiner's brain? Sakura, Kiba and others even had such a thought that they all felt was very rude. And they all subconsciously looked at Naruto on the right. I don't know why. Judging from the atmosphere alone, Sakura, Kiba, and Choji always felt that Naruto and the examiner were a little bit similar. Menma couldn't help but twitch his mouth a little. Seeing the situation that was almost completely cold. Hongdu was also completely embarrassed at this moment, and the smile on her face became a little forced. No one cares about you, Hongdu, so I said, you have to look at the atmosphere, the atmosphere. Ibiki walked out from behind the curtain and calmly stabbed Hongdu, making Hongdu's expression more subtle. Ahem. However, based on the principle that as long as you are not embarrassed, others will be embarrassed. Hongdu coughed lightly and took the initiative to pass the scene just now. After looking down at the number of candidates left below, Hongdu's brows also frowned slightly. 64 people. That's a bit too many, Ibiki. Is the first round of the test this year that easy? How can there be so many people left? Hongdu turned her head and looked at Ibiki beside her, and said with a tone of dissatisfaction. Although in this life, Naruto did not shout with the same passion as in the original book, which led to more than a dozen candidates who chose to give up at the last minute than in the original book. But the number of 64 people still makes Hongdu feel that it is too much. Hehe, there are many excellent guys among the genin participating this year, so the number of people who pass will naturally be a little more. Ibiki still responded with a faint smile. Well, it doesn't matter. In the second round of the test, I will eliminate at least half of you. Kids, you have to be mentally prepared. Hongdu smiled coldly, licked her lips like Orochimaru, leaned forward slightly, and looked at the genin below with eyes like looking at prey. Leng Yuyu said this. It also made the examinees feel a chill in their hearts. Looking at the examinees whose faces changed wildly. Hongdu also showed a very happy smile. Ah, I suddenly feel very excited. I will say hello to you today. The detailed test content will be discussed tomorrow. The specific time and place will be notified to you later. Above, disband. After saying this, Hongdu was like a gust of wind, and disappeared directly on the spot, leaving behind a group of examinees who seemed to have not yet recovered and standing there stupidly. Is this the only disciple that Orochimaru has accepted in the village? I don't know why Orochimaru took a fancy to her in the first place. Single quote. Menma looked at the direction where Hongdu left, and a faint doubt appeared in his pupils. After all, no matter how you look at it, this Mitarashi Hongdu seems to have nothing special. The first round of assessment ended. Although there were too many people left in Hongdu's mouth, In fact, the elimination rate of this round of written test was already very exaggerated. Even most of the genin who passed the test still felt a little unreal in their hearts. Moreover, because of Hongdu's sudden appearance, they were full of doubts about the second round of examinations. But at the moment, they had no way to ask, so they could only keep it in their hearts and leave for the time being. Menma went straight back to his home after the exam. The first round of assessment was just a transition. For Menma, the most important thing was to have a friendly negotiation with Orochimaru in the second round of assessment. Menma would have to modify his next plan. Orochimaru was not the only choice. But it was definitely the most reliable and appropriate choice at this stage. Menma needed such a springboard. Menma was not sure whether the chips in his hand could persuade Orochimaru, so he could only do his best and leave it to fate. I hope everything will go well in the future. Single quote. After considering how to persuade Orochimaru if he encountered him, Menma went to bed early and thought silently in his heart. At the same time, in a dark area of Konohagakure, a figure wearing the uniform of Konohagakure's Anbu suddenly appeared, and after scanning around, he also locked onto a dark corner on the left. Haha, you are indeed an elite of the root. A clear voice rang out from the corner at the same time. The next second, a straight figure stepped out from there, and under the slightly bright moonlight, the face revealed was that of Kabuto Yakushi. Where is the thing? The root man in front of him still looked at Kabuto Yakushi coldly, and his slightly low voice was also without any warmth. Kabuto Yakushi was also used to it. To be honest, he was also a member of the root. This is what we agreed on before, but... Kabuto Yakushi took out a scroll from his arms, but did not throw it directly, but looked at the root man opposite with a smile. The person at the root obviously understood what Yakushi Kabuto meant. He also took out several glass bottles filled with green liquid from his arms, and more importantly, the eyeballs contained in them were so scarlet against the backdrop of the night. Dazzling, so shocking. The intersection of black and red light and shadow. Magatama in varying amounts. Each of these glass bottles contains the strongest proof of the Uchiha clan's bloodline, the Sharingan. After seeing the Sharingan contained in these glass bottles, Yakushi Kabuto threw the scroll in his hand without any hesitation, and the root man also threw the glass bottles towards Yakushi Kabuto. After verifying that the items in the scroll were indeed the items requested by Danzo-sama, this man of the root had no unnecessary nonsense. Whoosh! With a vertical movement of his body, he disappeared directly into the thick night. And that is after this person at the root left. Swish, swish, swish. Suddenly there was an extremely slight sound from the position diagonally behind Yakushi Kabuto. A slightly thin figure stepped out from the position where Yakushi Kabuto had previously hidden, and the dark clouds that passed by became brighter and brighter. Under the moonlight, when the extremely pale and strange face appeared, Lord Orochimaru, Yakushi Kabuto also bowed and greeted him immediately. Haha, that old guy Danzo is still so timid. Just some Sharingan actually takes so much effort. Orochimaru glanced at the position where the root man was standing just now. The hoarse words that sounded, and a ray of sarcasm appeared in his pair of pale golden snake eyes. The scene just now seemed to be a separate meeting between Kabuto Yakushi and the root man, but there was Orochimaru behind Kabuto Yakushi, and there were two teams of root elites lurking around the root man. In the final analysis, the relationship between Danzo and Orochimaru is just mutual use. Trust. Stop being funny. Is there any so-called trust between people like them? Danzo can even hit his closest friends for decades, so who else can't he hit? For Danzo now, realizing his inner ambition is more important than anything else. Just Orochimaru. If it wasn't valuable, Danzo would have turned against him long ago. The same is true for Orochimaru. Whether he joined the roots in the village in the early years or was still in contact with Danzo after defecting, everything was still for profit. How's it going? There's nothing wrong with the stuff, right? Kabuto. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, there are 2 pairs of triple Magatama Sharingan, and the rest are single Magatama. There is no problem in terms of quantity. Medicine Master Kabuto handed over the glass bottle in his hand with a respectful look on his face. Orochimaru took it with one hand and looked at the Sharingan, whose scarlet and jet black colors contrasted with each other. There was also an uncontrollable fiery color in the depths of those snake eyes. This is the power he longs for. especially after being killed by Uchiha Itachi with one move. Orochimaru's desire for the power of the Sharingan reached an unparalleled height. But just the Sharingan is not enough. After years of research, he found that the Sharingan was too repellent to other bloodlines. Simply transplanting the Sharingan would not only fail to bring out the strongest power of the Sharingan, but would also affect it in all aspects, subject to varying degrees of restrictions. Isn't Kakashi Hatake a good example? Orochimaru's own experiments over the years can better illustrate the corresponding problems. These Sharingan eyes obtained from Danzo can only be used as further research materials for himself. He will not transplant these eyes like that idiot Danzo. His real goal is to obtain a complete bloodline of the Uchiha clan. What about Uchiha Sasuke? Can you identify it for sure? After Orochimaru put away these glass bottles, his pair of narrow snake eyes looked at Yakushi Kabuto again and said indifferently, "I'm very sorry, Lord Orochimaru. Judging from the initial contact, it is difficult to judge. Please give me more time. I will further confirm it in the next assessment." Kabuto Yakushi replied with a hint of apology. Because the plot has changed. Sasuke did not engage in a life and death struggle with Shiro during the mission to Wave Country. Therefore, at this stage, he has not truly realized that he had opened the Sharingan many years ago. Therefore, in the first round of assessment, Sasuke did not use his Sharingan, so Kabuto Yakushi was naturally unable to judge. Well, it doesn't matter. If you have a chance, you can go and get in touch. If not, it doesn't matter. I will go and visit this little guy in person. It's time to give him a gift. I want Sasuke-kun, and Itachi-kun should also be happy to see it. The contact with Suna Ninja is also left to you. It is not the right time for me to come forward, and it is impossible for that guy Danzo to know too much. Quote. Orochimaru smiled coldly, and a sharp look appeared in his snake eyes. The further he spoke, the colder his tone became. After the last sentence fell, Orochimaru's figure also seemed to become illusory, and then gradually melted into the night and slowly disappeared. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Yakushi Kabuto still maintained the respectful look on his face, bowed and replied. The night is getting dark. All parties plot. The Hidden Leaf Village, already in turmoil, is about to face its second disaster in the 60 years since its founding. The next day, 8 o'clock in the morning. According to yesterday's notice, the second round of the Chunin examination will be held today at the 44th training ground of Konoha Hidden Village. Why is it always said that Konoha Hidden Village is very big? Because in a broad sense, Konoha Hidden Village includes all these training grounds. In fact, the area where people live is only 1/3 of the entire Hidden Leaf Village. The remaining area is all training venues, as well as some special venues. Menma and others are going to the 44th place today. The training ground is known as the Forest of Death, and is the largest training ground in Konoha Hidden Village. On time, Menma arrived outside this deep and silent training ground. Looking at the towering trees that were almost as tall as the clouds, Menma's pupils also showed a rare look of wonder. Sakura looked at the somewhat eerie death forest, and the corners of her eyes twitched slightly. Is our second round of exams going to be here? It doesn't look like a good place. By the way, what exactly is this exam? Sakura said with a little uneasiness. Haha, since we were notified to come here, the exam location must be here. As for what the exam will be, we will find out later, right? Menma smiled softly, raised his head and motioned to Midori Anko, who was already waiting for their arrival on a giant tree trunk with a group of Konoha ninja not far away, and said softly. Aha, there are 21 teams with 64 people. Including the examiners who came to supervise, the number of people exceeds 80. However, in front of this forest of death, this number of people is as insignificant as a drop in the ocean. It was still early for Menma and his group to arrive, and most of the candidates arrived at the designated time. And among this group of people, Menma saw the figure of a girl with long fiery red hair. When I saw a face that was obviously very childish, but familiar enough. Menma was stunned subconsciously. Yes, she was not Orochimaru's subordinate from the beginning. She lived in Kusakure village, and she and Sasuke met once in the Death Forest. Single quote. The part of the plot memory that had been forgotten before also came to mind at this moment. Whirlpool incense. Of course, it might be more appropriate to call him Shang Rin directly. After all, there is no explanation of Shongrin's surname in the original work. However, it is 100% certain that Shongrin is from the Uzumaki clan. The red hair cannot mean anything, but God, the Eye of Joy and the art of King Kong blockade are truly exclusive skills of the Uzumaki clan's bloodline. The same goes for Menma, possessing the eyes of Kagura. It's just that King Kong's blockade has no impact yet. Shongrin also obviously noticed Menma's gaze. After subconsciously glancing at Menma, he immediately lowered his head. There was a hint of hope and desire that he didn't know existed in his eyes, but there was also a hint of desire. A deep sense of fear and panic. After Menma was stunned for the first time, he immediately came back to his senses and no longer looked at Shongrin's side. He was not qualified to think about anything else now. He himself is a caged bird, and has no energy left to care about others. The numbness of the face only lasted for a moment. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke on the side didn't notice. Their attention was now focused on the giant training ground in front of them and the content of the assessment that might come next. After all, if the second round of assessment is really held here, the difficulty of the corresponding assessment content will certainly not be low. Menma also took a deep breath and quickly adjusted his mentality, but that was when Menma had just calmed down his mood. Suddenly, the figures of the three grass ninjas also suddenly came into Menma's eyes. The moment I saw the leader, Menma's pupils subconsciously shrank again. That is, in less than a second. Menma turned his gaze naturally. Orochimaru. Single quote. There is no doubt that the grass ninja that just appeared is Orochimaru. Not to mention that Menma has the original plot as a reference, and he can sense a huge chakra aura from that grass ninja. Even more terrifying than Kakashi. At this stage. In front of this forest of death. Besides Orochimaru, who else could it be? It's finally here, Orochimaru-senpai, I've had a hard time waiting for you. Menma subconsciously clenched his right hand slightly, thinking silently in his heart. Now that the target has appeared as expected, the next thing he has to do is to find a suitable opportunity to contact him. Although he needs to take some risks, it seems to be worth it in Menma's opinion. Above the scene, there were more than 80 ninjas. Except for Menma, no one realized that a big boss had sneaked into this assessment. Even Anko, who was the examiner and a special Jonin, didn't even realize that the mentor-sama he was thinking about was already under his nose, and he was still introducing him eloquently to all the candidates who came. The content of the second round of assessment and the corresponding rules. The farthest distance in the world is when I am in front of you and you don't recognize me. Single quote. At this moment, Menma really wanted to know what Orochimaru's attitude was towards him, the only disciple he had accepted in the past. The above are all the contents and rules of the second round of assessment. Now we can give you time to think about it. If you want to give up, you can give up immediately. If you have any doubts, you can raise it now. If you pass at this point in time, you have no chance to regret it. Hongdu looked down at the more than 60 candidates who came for reference with a very dangerous look in his eyes, and said very playfully. It seemed that he was going to use this method to further beat the little guys below. When he saw the frightened expressions on some of them, the evil taste in Hongdu's heart was greatly satisfied. I have doubts, examiner. Oh, what doubts are there? Tell me. I saw that someone actually raised doubts. Anko raised her eyebrows, looked at the tacky nin who asked the question with a hint of interest, and asked with a smile. According to the rules you mentioned, we are going to compete for the scrolls in the team mode. So of the 21 teams here, 20 are all 3-person teams, but one team is 4-person. This seems unfair. This tacky nin obviously looked at where Menma, Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura were and said loudly. And it was also following the words of this tacky nin. Everyone present turned their attention to the 4 people from Class 7. After all, the first assessment before was a written test, and the final score was calculated based on the average score, so no one would really raise any objections at the beginning, but this round of assessment is different. This is a team-based scroll. In the battle, when everyone was in a 3-person team, the 4-person team of Menma and others just seemed so conspicuous and unfair. Even if they enter the examination room and the ninjas from the same village can cooperate with each other, they are still different teams after all. There is a big difference between having one more person in the same team. Menma's eyebrows also raised slightly. Naruto and Sakura even showed varying degrees of embarrassment. They had obviously thought about this problem. It was normal for a team of 4 people to carry out missions, but now in the context of the Chunin exam, it was indeed. It seems very unfair. Sasuke still looked calm. Oh, are you talking about that team? Don't worry, we in Konoha will never do anything that favors our own people. This assessment will definitely be fair. The 4 of them will never act together. On this point, I, Enko Midori, as the examiner, can guarantee that in this assessment, no team will have more than 3 people. Enko smiled and said very casually. How is it? Are you satisfied with my answer? This Taki Nin. Since the examiner said so, I must choose to believe it, and I also believe that Konoha must be fair. This Taki Nin didn't seem to be afraid at all. He looked directly at Enko and replied. Haha, interesting. A bold question for this Taki Nin. Not only did Enko not feel offended at all, but she also felt that this Taki Nin was very courageous. Mitarashi Enko-sama liked courageous people the most. In this case, the game will be more interesting, right? Others, do you have any questions? If not, then enter the tent in order to receive your scrolls. After Hongdu glanced around and saw that no one asked questions and no one gave up, she nodded with satisfaction and waved her hand. It also began to distribute scrolls belonging to the candidates who entered the second round. One after another, teams entered to collect the scrolls. They were also led to different entrances by the Konoha Chunin who were waiting on one side, and entered the Forest of Death in batches. No one can know the scroll types of other teams, and no one can know the entrance locations of other teams. This is the established rule in the second round of assessment. Teams leaving one after another. After it was Menma and others' turn to enter the tent. Haha, it's finally your turn, kids from Kakashi's class. Hongdo, who was sitting on the main seat, suddenly brightened up, with a look of interest clearly showing in his pupils. Enko-senpai also knows brother Kakashi. Naruto at the side also looked at Enko with curiosity and said. Well, that's right, I saw it was Naruto. Hongdu also restrained his temper somewhat. After all, this is the son of the 4th generation of his own family. Okay, although your captain and I are acquaintances, the rules should be as they should be. You also heard what I said to that Taki Nin just now. You guys, the 7th team is composed of 4 people. Of course it doesn't matter if you are in a group, the first round of assessment, or the subsequent assessments, but this round is not acceptable. In the battle for the scroll, it is illegal for you to have one more person, so here is a special setting for you. The rules are okay, right? Enko coughed slightly and said with rare seriousness. In fact, it doesn't mean much if such rules are not set. After all, when entering the Forest of Death, teams want to join forces with each other. This is inherently allowed, regardless of whether they are from the same village or different villages. The rules don't prohibit this. In other words, even if Menma and the 4 of them are in the same team, other teams can join forces and attack together. However, the necessary superficial fairness still needs to be maintained. When everyone is in groups of 3, Class 7 is no exception. Well, of course there is no problem. Kakashi-sensei has said this from the beginning. We have already been mentally prepared. Please ask Enko-senpai to make it clear. Menma also smiled and nodded in reply. That's right, just tell me, Enko-senpai, what are the special rules? Naruto on the side also continued. Haha, it's good if you are prepared. The rules are also very simple, that is, the 4 of you need to split up, whether it is a group of 2 or 3, or a group of 3 and 1. Anyway, the upper limit is that it cannot exceed 3 people per group. And you must enter the examination room separately at different entrances. In addition, the 2 scrolls you received are also of the same kind. The rules are as simple as that. I will give the 4 of you a few minutes to discuss it, how to distribute it. Enko took out 2 identical scrolls of heaven from behind and placed them in front of Menma and Naruto, and said with a smile. This was beyond expectation, but it's a completely reasonable rule. Separate. This also made Menma and the 4 others stunned. But it's different from the other 3. After Menma was stunned for the first time, his heart suddenly became ecstatic. He had been thinking about how he could find an opportunity to act alone and contact Orochimaru. Now he had an honest opportunity in front of him. If this happened, if you still can't grasp it, maybe there's something wrong with your brain, right? At this moment, Menma was really glad that he was in a team of 4, otherwise how could he have such a good opportunity? The thought of this, Menma felt that Sakura had become more pleasing to the eye. The moment, Menma didn't hesitate at all, and said directly, "No need to discuss, Enko-senpai, I will form my own team." After saying that, he directly reached out and took a heavenly scroll on the table into his hand. "Ho ho, you are in a team by yourself, are you sure?" Enko raised her eyebrows and looked at Menma with a hint of interest and asked. "Well, I'm sure, the 3 of them will form a team, and then I will form my own team." Menma also continued with an extremely sure tone. The words that fell before and after. It was this that woke up the 3 people nearby. Sasuke just frowned. Naruto's face became anxious and he said directly, "How is this possible?" "Menma, we should group up in 2s, so it's more balanced." "Then tell me how to group them into 2 groups." Menma directly interrupted Naruto's words and said so straightforwardly. Sakura on the side could also completely understand the meaning of Menma's words. At that moment, her expression could not help but change slightly. Forehead. Naruto also reacted at this moment. After glancing at Sakura, she was instantly stuck, with a very hesitant look on her face. Naruto is very simple and passionate, that's right. But it can also be seen that in their 7th class, Sakura is not at the same level of strength as the 3 of them. If they are really divided into 2 groups, the one who is in the group with Sakura must bear a lot of responsibility, of pressure. Whether you can pass this second round of assessment is really a big question mark. Sakura also reacted after Naruto. When I realized that I was completely holding myself back. Sakura also took a deep breath and said, "It's not appropriate to do this, Menma, it's best for the 3 of you to be together. Let me give up. This is okay, examiner." "Oh, you give up. That's right, I just need to make sure that each team has no more than 3 people." Red Bean also raised her eyebrows and looked at Sakura with a touch of surprise. Then, although she was a little unwilling, Sakura still felt that this was the best way to do it. After all, the Chunin exam is not the only one. Sakura also felt that if she gave up here, she could improve her status in the hearts of Naruto, Menma, and Sasuke. But how could Menma allow such a thing to happen? What he wanted was the opportunity to act completely alone. So, before Sakura's second sentence came out, Menma said first, "Giving up is the most undesirable behavior, Sakura, since you have come this far, you can't give up on your own initiative. People can accept failure, because failure is also the driving force for growth, but only giving up is the easiest but also the stupidest thing. The more you feel that you are a drag, the more you should prove yourself. If you retreat again and again, then you will never grow up. Is this what you want?" He said this in a very serious and earnest tone. This is completely what Sakura said from her standpoint. Sakura was also stunned. "Yes, Sakura, I also think what Menma said makes sense. You have no reason to give up. Let's still do what I said, divide into 2 groups, you and I in 1 group, and Menma and Sasuke in 1 group, so everything will be fine." Naruto also said what Menma said. "No, let's go to Trinity. You 3 will be in a group, and I will be in a group alone. You don't need to say anything. Naruto, you and Sasuke are not my opponents, right? This is the most appropriate approach. Let us the 4 members of the team have the highest probability of passing the assessment together." At this moment, Menma's words were almost merciless. The moment they blurted out, not to mention Naruto was choked, and even Sasuke's expression darkened, but Menma was telling the truth. The 2 of them, it's really hard to argue with anything. After 6 years in the ninja school, apart from Nazuo and Naru, all the competitions between the 2 of them and Menma ended in defeat, and now they can obviously judge that the original confrontation Ma undoubtedly kept his hand. And then in more than half a year, Menma's strength has been shown time and time again in missions. Both of them saw it. As proud as Sasuke, although he will not admit that he is really inferior to Menma, he does know that he cannot defeat Menma now. Remember the B-level mission we carried out before? Aren't I responsible for the individual infiltration work? Don't worry, I can do it alone. When the time comes, we can find a way to reunite. Come on, Naruto, you don't want to stop at this round of assessment, do you?" Menma waved his hand and continued. Letting the strongest person act alone does indeed seem to be one of the most reliable options. Grouping up in pairs, let's not talk about anything else. From a general perspective, it is very easy for both sides to overturn. One is the safest. Of course, we must look at it from a practical perspective. Sakura's suggestion is the safest. But this is not what Menma wants to show as a gesture of caring for his companions, is it? Menma also believed that Sakura was not really willing to give up, and she could definitely control Naruto on this point. As for Sasuke, that is the attitude of pure indifference. Anyway, the solo action in this assessment is going to be decided. As expected, after Menma's words fell, Sasuke did not express his attitude, but Sakura was obviously very moved. After Naruto was silent for a while, he also looked up at Menma. Then you must be careful in your actions, Menma. Let's try to meet up in the shortest possible time. Quote. Well, that's for sure. Menma also nodded and said. Of course, they still have to meet up. After all, he can't really be alone in the forest looking for Orochimaru, right? The best thing to do is to wait and see. As long as there are no deviations in the plot, the Uncle Snake will definitely come to Sasuke. He only needs to stay on one side, and there is a high probability that he will be able to see Orochimaru. Menma's initial plan was to estimate the time after entering the examination room and find an excuse to act alone so that he could hide in one side and wait for Orochimaru to appear. However, firstly, the time of Orochimaru's arrival was uncertain, and secondly, this excuse was really it's not easy to find. Once you leave for too long, it will look very unnatural. You can't really treat Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura as fools, right? Therefore, being able to enter the Death Forest alone this time is a good thing worth $1,000 for Menma. Plan made. There are 4 people in the 7th class of this separate school. It seems to be a return to the plot of the original work. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura moved together. Menma, on the other hand, acted alone. But this is what Menma wants. Under the leadership of different examiners, the 4 men and women were obviously divided into 2 completely unrelated entrance positions. One last reminder, the scroll is not allowed to be opened during the exam, and all consequences will be borne by the candidates themselves. The Chunin looked at Menma with an indifferent expression and said, Yeah, I understand. Menma also nodded nonchalantly. Whoosh. Then, his body slumped down. He passed through the entrance at extremely high speed and headed towards the depths of the Death Forest. Time is still a bit tight. Although I don't remember exactly when Orochimaru went to find Sasuke, it was probably shortly after entering the examination room. There wasn't much time left for me. Single quote. While Menma was walking quickly, he also fully released his perception. He had to determine the positions of Naruto and the 3 of them in the shortest possible time. And that was shortly after all the candidates entered the examination room. In a wilderness location far from the Forest of Death, Mitarashi Anko appeared here with several Konoha ninjas. Looking at the 3 grass ninjas who died tragically, this special Chunin of Konoha Hidden Village had a look of ashen color, and the previous calmness and ridicule completely disappeared. Some are the more intense special emotions. He's back, that guy's back. Single quote. Hongdo's hands clenched tightly, and her dark pupils were full of fierceness. Immediately report the information here to the Hokage-sama. The rest of you, follow me and enter the Death Forest immediately. Hongdo suddenly turned his head and looked at the subordinates around him, and shouted sharply. Yes, Anko-sama. Although these subordinates don't know why the death of 3 grass ninjas made their Anko-sama lose his composure, the orders of the Chunin are everything. At this moment, these Chunin are also following Anko's orders. Stand up. It must be in time. Single quote. Hongdo, with a look of extreme solemnity, quickly flew towards the interior of the Death Forest. A big shark that could be called a small fish pond. The lethality and destructive power it brought was absolutely incomparable. The most terrifying thing was that almost all the small fish didn't know that such a giant shark had mixed in. However, fortunately, it was a shark with a clear goal. Those small fish cubes were not even appetizers. Orochimaru would not pay any attention to them at all. For Orochimaru, he had only one goal in entering the Death Forest, which was to determine the current situation of Uchiha Sasuke and bring him his own exclusive gift. Others, As long as they didn't interfere with him, Orochimaru had no interest in even taking a look. In fact, this was also the case. After Orochimaru used the technique of erasing face and entered the death forest with the face of the grass ninja, he also directly started searching for Sasuke. With his extraordinary strength and countless summoned ninja snakes to assist Orochimaru, Orochimaru locked onto the location of Sasuke and his group in less than an hour or two. Haha, Itachi's brother, let me see where your limit is now. Looking at Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura below, Orochimaru smiled playfully, licked his lips with his long tongue, and signaled his two subordinates to disperse the surrounding guards. Swoosh, Orochimaru also did not hesitate at all, and flew directly to the position below. At the same time, Menma, who was also rushing towards the direction where Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were, encountered a little accident on the way. Looking at Karen, who appeared in front of him like a villain boss, and the other two Kusanagi, Menma's expression at the moment was as weird as it could be. Haha, this is really very lucky. The examiner really didn't lie. If the four of them can't act together, they must be divided into two teams. But, is it actually a single person? My luck is really good. At such a close distance, you did a good job, Karen. The Kusanagi who seemed to have a coxcomb in the lead patted Karen's head with a very proud expression and said arrogantly. Karen seemed to follow the action of the coxcomb grass ninja, and her body shook subconsciously. There was a hint of apology in her eyes when she looked at Menma. Little boy, if you know what's good for you, just hand over the scroll in your hand. Since you are a Konoha ninja, I can let you go. The coxcomb grass ninja raised his chin and looked at Menma in the opposite position. This is our rare kindness, little boy, don't be ungrateful. The purple-haired grass ninja on the side also sneered. Menma shook his head with a smile when he heard the words of the two grass ninjas. Kindness, haha, then we have to see if you have the ability to do it. Menma's pupils flashed with a hint of sarcasm. Boom. The chakra burst out directly. Swoosh. The figure shook. He also took the initiative to threaten the two grass ninjas in the opposite position at a high speed. When they saw Menma reject them, the two grass ninjas were instantly furious. But only a second later, when they saw Menma's extremely fast speed. Quote exclamation mark question mark quote. Not good. The two grass ninjas, whose brains were not particularly stupid, instantly realized that the kid from the Hidden Leaf village in front of them was definitely not a rookie. Oh, no problem. The two people who were ready to go were also running wildly. A bright double attack. However, HMPH, the two grass ninjas still overestimated themselves and underestimated Menma. This one directly pressed Menma to the near point. Shua, with a flip of the palm. The bright kunai appeared. At the angle of the sudden drop. Kang, with a flash of cold light. The only one who could react was the coxcomb grass ninja. A barely formed stance. An attack that was blocked with great effort. As the sparks burst out and a powerful force was transmitted, the face of the coxcomb grass ninja suddenly changed. Legs trembled violently. This was obviously an unstoppable stance. Still cover me. These words were shouted fiercely. He wanted his teammates to support him immediately. Unfortunately, as soon as the words fell, Shua. Menma had already vigorously swung away the blocking stance of the grass ninja, and his life gate was wide open. Menma turned his wrist. A cold light flashed, straight into the heart of the coxcomb grass ninja. A heart-wrenching pain spread all over his body. Ah! A shrill cry was issued. The cold feeling felt in an instant. Menma smiled coldly, with a twist of his right hand. The heart of this coxcomb ninja was crushed in the most brutal way. Wow! The blood spurted out of his mouth in large quantities, and all his strength was completely poured out at this moment. His vision quickly became dim, and he was filled with a sense of coldness. Shua, as Menma twitched, the blood that spurted out. As Menma's body was infected. The body of this coxcomb ninja fell forward limply, and before his consciousness finally fell into darkness, this coxcomb ninja glanced at the location of his companions, as if he wanted to figure out why his companions didn't come to support him. But when he saw that his companions had already fallen in a pool of blood, and there was another, Menma, standing next to him. The pupils of this coxcomb ninja just flashed a ray of realization. So we are the prey. And we are the stupid prey that took the initiative to deliver ourselves. Single quote. After this last self-deprecating thought came into his mind. Bang! The consciousness of this coxcomb-headed Kusagaker ninja was completely sunk into darkness. There was no life at all. Menma looked at the two Kusagaker ninjas who had already died, and there was no expression in his pupils. For him now, his personal strength alone was enough to crush all ordinary middle and lower ninjas. They didn't even detect their first shadow clones. You should be able to detect my shadow clones, why didn't you report it to your companions? Menma gently wiped away the blood on his face, and took out the mission scroll of their team from the Kusanagi's arms. After seeing the word, "duh," on it, he casually dismissed his doubts, and then looking at Xianglin, who seemed to be forcing himself to remain calm but was actually panicking, and his body could not restrain himself from trembling, he said in a calm tone. They are not my companions. After Xianglin was silent for a while and took a deep breath to calm down, he looked up at Menma and spoke word by word. Also, maybe you don't believe it, but when I saw you in the first round of the exam, I felt that you were very kind. At least I am more willing to believe you than these two guys. Oh, is it because of my red hair? But in this exam, it's not just me. No, it has nothing to do with red hair. It's just a simple intuition. Xianglin pursed her lips and replied with a very serious expression. For such a reason, you are all grass ninjas, and you just sit and watch me kill these two people. Don't you worry about your situation at all. Menma raised his eyebrows and looked at Xianglin with a hint of doubt. This really wasn't Menma's pretense. But he is very aware of Xianglin's situation in Kaoyan village, and he will indeed not hurt her, and is even willing to provide some help if possible. But there is no reason for Xianglin to know this, just because of a pure intuition. Do I still have a choice? It's either them or you, and them, have you ever seen such companions? Xianglin gave a sad smile and exposed his arm, the moment he saw the countless tooth marks on it. Menma's eyes also condensed. I'm a sentient ninja, that's true, but I'm also a medical ninja who can treat injuries with just one bite on me without any magic. They don't regard me as a companion at all. Let's look at it, my mother was bitten to death by them like this. Can such a person be a companion? The worst outcome is to die in your hands. I have no choice at all. Leeway, if you don't believe me. No, I believe you. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.